You're gonna say what?
So what the fuck supposed to do? Just try to please people. Got my indicators.
Yeah.
Remember, used to put mistake in my tennis shoes.
Yeah.
Walk around in them tennis, the mini shoes. For party nigga, I was too thugged out for that. Never told all my enemies I couldn't be a rat.
Okay,
But
there we
niggas
go.
told me, nigga, they gotta live the turn. Now in they mama's living room in a nice earth. Fuck you, your whole crew, bitch, cause you gon' get caught. Blow your brains out.
All right, Ladora, give me rate the song. Rate the song. Rate it.
Radio?
Yeah. The beat. Come on, the beat is banging.
The beat is banging.
Yeah, probably 8.
9.
That beat. Okay, 8 is good.
That's good.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Go on.
Look at Hugo.
Go on.
Hugo. Hugo here and jamming everybody. Yeah. My man, God. That's my favorite one. That's my favorite gun. Don't. Home. Nah.
Do you need the hat on?
You gonna be in the casket, people trying to comfort us. For so many hoes, these like
So now she's going. If she does her giggle, you know
Yeah.
she's doing better.
Okay.
Do your giggle, see? Now Brian likes that. So that's when I know Ladora's feeling better.
That's
When she
good,
does
that's
her
good.
giggle, she's gonna do
She's good to go.
Just do the Ladora giggle. You know she's in a better state of mind.
Fuck that shit, bro. I'm tired of being nice. Like shit in your head, this mic is not my fucking life.
Oh, no problem. No problem. All right. I'd like to welcome everybody to episode 9. Episode 9. 9 episodes, Ladora. You know what I'm saying? We just started this thing about 3.5 weeks ago. You know what I'm saying? Went from like two subscribers and we almost hit 200 now. So, you know what I'm saying? That's like a movement to me.
Right.
That's a movement, Hugo.
It is.
You know, I don't care what nobody tells
That's
me.
the power of Hello Houston.
Listen or something, you know. Somebody I know. But hey, this episode, I'm telling you, I have a guy, a great motivational speaker, you know what I'm saying? Businessman, of course, because you know this is all things business here on Fivecast. Mr. Hugo V. Let me tell you about him. All right, this is how I met him. So of course we have Clubhouse. And Just Ask Andy. It's one of the rooms that she runs with my man Tristan and Anita. And so I think I was in there for about 2 days or something. And I had heard Hugo, you know, he chime in and not chime in, he comes in. He don't even chime in, he comes in. So he comes in and his voice was powerful. And I caught that. I was like, man, you know, so I was listening to what he was saying. And then after the second time I did it, when I went into the room the next time, you know, I was looking to see if Hugo was in, you know what I'm saying? Because I knew Hugo was gonna give me one, you know what I'm saying? So I could go ahead and get my day right, you know. So that, you know, of course, I look him up and I went to his website, www.lifeiswonderful.love, and I thought it was unique. I said, man, how can you get a website with .love and not .com?
Right.
You know, so I checked it out and I looked at it and I was checking out his principles and things and the thing I tell people about all the time, we talk about stress and counseling and therapy, that a lot of people are scared to do, won't do, and they just refuse to talk about it. Okay. I don't think therapy is a bad thing at all. I don't think going to see a counselor is a bad thing at all.
No, it's actually a great thing.
You know what I'm saying? So I said, you know what? I'm going to hit him up. The next thing I know, he DM me. And then I said, well, shoot, he got to me before I would get to him.
I'm quick.
You know, he's quick like that. But so we worked it out, get him on the show, and I said, man, this is perfect. I think it's gonna work out just great. So without further ado, I would like to welcome, you know what I'm saying, my new main man, Mr. Hugo V.
Thank you, G.
Yeah. And when we have his lovely assistant, Ladora, she's over there. Ladora, how you doing?
Hello, I'm doing pretty well.
Okay, Ladora. You know what I'm saying, real quick. So your name is Ladora, and you are a student at where?
I'm a student, full-time student at University of Houston, working on my master's program, first year in HR. or
Okay.
Human resource
Resource development.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's a great degree. You know that, right?
Thank you.
It's a
Yes.
great degree. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, best. I see you have your nice little dog with you there. What's his name?
Domino. He's a 10-month-old standard poodle.
Oh, that's the big money dogs. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
People with big money have those
That's at the
dogs.
dog show.
Yeah, I know the dog show dogs. He got a backpack and everything.
Yeah,
He got a wallet.
my baby.
Okay, all right. Hey, Mr. Hugo, welcome to the show, baby.
Thank you, bro.
Hey,
Thank you,
man, I
G.
appreciate you showing up. For
Oh, I
us.
appreciate a nice cold night,
I-
and there's nothing else
what?
to do but talk about
Oh
some
my-
mental
oh
health.
my
Everyone's
God,
at
cold.
home thinking something. They got to do something.
Hey,
Might
man,
as well listen in on how to get emotionally and spiritually
know.
uplifted.
while that crock pot is brewing right now, they got
That's
the
right.
beans on the stove. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
something
Stuff
good.
like that. So let's go ahead and get to some of the meat and potatoes real quick.
Good.
As I look at, and we're gonna probably talk community based a little bit, okay? All right, but we're gonna hit everything, but let's go to community based, okay? Of course, the reason why I think maybe therapy is great because in business, and it's gonna lead into more personal, but in business because business is stressful.
It is.
You know what I'm saying? And some of the emotions that come out in your business really could be linked to something from your childhood or some trauma. You know what I'm saying? Something that you may need help to have spoken to someone about, but we don't.
Right. And then we get easily triggered.
Mm,
That's the key word. Is
That's
what
that
are
key
our
trigger.
what is our triggers?
right. So do you think we figure that out, or we don't even realize, or somebody needs to kind of show us that focus?
Most of us, unfortunately,
Uh-huh.
do not grow up in a household where we are actually taught about emotions on
Ah.
what could be our triggers and kind of knowing. And a lot of it is just growing up.
Okay.
Because even if two people grow up in the same household, like
Mhm.
me and my older brother,
Okay.
we still had different experiences because we had different friends.
Right.
We didn't have, even though we played the same sports, but we still had some other differences, and as
Mhm.
well as because we moved.
Right.
Like I said, we were born in New York City, but grew up here in Texas.
Okay.
But went to some different schools, even though we went to the same middle school, same high school, even
Mhm.
the same university. We both went
Ah.
to, we went to a private school here in Houston, all boys,
Okay.
Catholic, straight
Right.
Jesuit. And then we both went to UT, but we had different majors. And I started in
Ah.
as pharmacy. He was pre-med because he was
Right.
always destined. But so what I'm saying is you can still be in the same house, but you're still going to think and
Have a different
feel
outcome.
and feel different.
Okay. Okay.
And
so,
then you're going to have different things that happen to you, like your first girlfriend, your first kiss,
Right.
all those things. Did you get bullied? Did you do this? What happened in the class?
okay. So was it just you and your brother?
Correct.
Okay. So let me ask you a few things then. So you said you both can come up with the same house, really go to the same school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Totally different outcomes. Is it the way we process things individually, you think? You know what I'm saying? That makes us different, even though we came up in the same lane. You know what I'm saying? Or is trauma, not I don't want to go as hard and say trauma, but just events that happen. You know what I'm saying? Like what makes me different than my brother? You feel what I'm saying? As far as processing things, even though we came up in the same house, learning the same rules and everything.
Well, the first thing you got to realize is our brains are different.
Okay.
And so even though we have very similar DNA, our DNA is a little different. So
Okay.
if you actually do like a 23andMe, your DNA makeup may be a little different, but it's really how your brain is being formed. What a lot of people don't realize is your brain is still growing till the age of 25.
Okay.
And so, I can talk about, we'll talk a little bit more about addictions, my addictions, how I became a compulsive gambler,
Okay.
alcoholic, how I
Right.
got into recovery.
Mm-hmm.
But like they say in any addictions, the longer you can withhold with having that first drink, with having that first, let's say, smoke, that first bet, or
Right.
maybe even that first observing of porn, or whatever, or even your first sexual experience,
Okay.
any of that stuff, or
Right.
your relationship with food,
Mhm.
or even nowadays, because it kind of came in after me, is are you spending too much time with video games? Because video
Right.
games, even though people will say, well, I don't mind my kid plays video games, video games can be just as destructive as doing a drug,
True.
because you are really just escaping reality.
Mm.
You're in some other fantasy world, and that was what a lot of us did when we were
So
drinking. We tried to. I used it most about an escape.
Right. So does it cause us to not develop?
Well, it
That's
can.
what's
right.
happening because
So usually, like
we're running
therapists,
away,
right?
right?
So when I went to my therapist, and the way it's explained mostly in any type of with any psychologist, is usually, even though we're still growing,
Right.
are usually we may be we're stopped growing emotionally after our first high, our first drunk, our first certain things. And so the difference like between my brother and I is my parents are from Bolivia.
Okay.
So they immigrated from South America, Bolivia, went to New York, to kind of have a different type of life. But they always had this belief that if they weren't hard line is don't drink, don't do this, is that we would find a way, and it would, we would never go over the line. We'd never do that.
Right.
So my father loved to drink beer.
Okay.
So even at 8 years old, I always thought, oh, the foam on the beer, man, that is so cool. I want to it almost looked like whipped cream.
Right.
I got to give me some.
Right.
I got to give me some. So he was always cool to just drink that foam.
Uh-huh.
But didn't realize is for an 8-year-old brain, that is not good. Even though you're not really drinking any of the alcohol, you're still getting that, and that's still affecting your brain.
Right.
And then, I made my first betting in the famous Cotton Bowl, Earl Campbell against Notre Dame. And, growing up Catholic, here's the thing. So we're at this CCE class. So I went to a public middle school.
Okay.
So, but my parents always wanted us to still retain certain amount of Catholic teaching. So what they did, what they call these CCEs, almost like Catholic learning. So outside school, like once a week, we'd go like within your parish, within your church, we would have these classes with some other Catholic students.
Kind of like a Catholic continuing education program.
And so the person who was running it was this deacon. He was studying to become a priest. He was at the seminary here in Houston.
Right.
And so he really loved UT. UT was undefeated. Earl was winning the Heisman. There was nothing going to stop the Longhorns. I grew up, coming from the East. I said, well, I like Notre Dame.
Okay.
And so he was willing to take some bets, and everybody wanted to bet like a quarter. Those you were talking about. I'm in 8th grade.
Right.
And I said, no, I got to go big, and I'm already going in big. I want $5.
Right.
Of course, Notre Dame beats UT. I win my bet.
Okay.
And here's the thing: he doesn't pay. We go the rest of the semester till May, and we don't even. I don't even get paid. But what I'm saying is so I had my first experience very early drinking and gambling.
Right.
And then it just kind of accelerated. We can go get more into the details, but at a very early age, that really affects your brain. It's the same thing is how early is your first sexual experience.
Right.
And that was another thing is I was 8 years old. I was right outside Philadelphia, and I had my first kiss with I was 8 years old, and 2 girls that were 12 years old kissed me.
Okay.
And part of it, it was like that whole thing. Well, it was trauma, but here's the thing is, and I talked to this with my therapist, and he goes, well, how did you feel? And I said, well, felt good. Well, who doesn't want to be kissed?
Right.
But I also instinctively knew, even at 8 years old, that there was something wrong with it.
Right.
And I wouldn't tell anybody. I didn't tell my brother. I didn't even tell my parents. And it was a secret. And those are usually what addicts will always tell you when they get into recovery is it's the secrets that kill you. They keep you back. So here's my thing. So I had all these early things, much earlier than my brother.
Right.
Tasting alcohol, some type of sexual experience, a bet.
Right.
So even though we were in the same household, same parents, that we went to the same schools, and our brains were obviously different, but so it did. So, and that happens to a lot of families.
Right.
And so that's why sometimes you have one brother. And here's the other thing: is a lot of times an addiction is usually the baby. Because the babies are catered to, and so a lot of addicts will say they were had an immature mindset, and that was me. I was very immature.
Right. So let me ask you this right here. So. Because I only want to get to the part where you're talking to a therapist yet, right?
Right.
Because I know you just said it. You're saying
No,
the therapist said.
Yeah,
so
but that's way
like
later down the road. There's a lot of stuff that I still had to go through.
No, I understand, and that's what I kind of want to walk through in a sense.
No,
because
I hear you.
The thing I'm trying to look at really is capturing is this right here. From different cultures, what I'm saying, why they may look at seeing a therapist as being either weak, not needed, I can cope with it. You know what I'm saying?
And that's the same thing with my family.
So as you were coming up, did you experience anybody or know anybody who went to see a therapist or counseling or anything?
Well, no. I mean, but here's the thing: is like I said, is so one of the questions later on. So I didn't start seeing we can just so people get a little understanding of me. You know, I didn't start seeing a therapist till I was 31, almost 32 years
Okay,
old.
so exactly. So 31 and 32, right? So when we look at the youth today, right, as they're coming up right now, because the youth are really the ones that are out here doing things, right? If we look at businesses being created,
Right.
you know, that demographic is really like 18 to 30. You know what I'm saying? Like these are the people that are going to hear doing businesses right now.
Especially with social media, right?
Right,
You're doing a
right.
lot of
And-
a lot of
and it's-
business,
and
starting
it's
businesses on
rapid.
Instagram,
So now,
Facebook.
and so they're probably coming out hot 17, 18 years old, but they'd already been developing businesses probably 14 or 15.
Right.
Now you just said the brain is still in development
Correct.
until what age?
25.
Till 25. Okay, so now what that means is different impressions can happen. You said, like you said, a girl kissed you, girls kiss you, boom. That can be a trauma, right?
Right.
Things happen. They went to a party, some inappropriate things happen while they're
Right.
trauma, right?
Right.
And now there's nobody around them because you said you didn't see any part of a counselor or a therapist until you're 30 years old. Now imagine some of the people out here who don't have the means. They have the means, but because they're raised to, you know, like, yo, no, we don't. I can't hear you say it again.
With growing up Catholic, strict, and not seeing a therapist until about 30, 31 years old. And that from that time when you were a child, you felt like you had to keep part of that as a secret. And so
Right.
obviously if only you know,
Right.
then your parents don't know, your friends don't know, anyone that you feel like you can trust and be vulnerable with, they can't help you. you know?
Right.
So that's a great point. That you
Right. Okay. And I just want to highlight that just because I notice a lot of things, and I'm saying it because I'm engaged with a lot of business owners, and they're young, you know, and so certain things they don't understand or whatever, and you just kind of say, hey, you ever talk to me? Like, I would never do that, right? So it makes me like, whoa, that's deep.
Right. And so here's another thing that happened. So in first grade,
Yeah.
So we were living outside of Philly in a small little town, Malvern.
Okay.
So it's about 30 mile, it's about 30 minutes kind of west of Philly.
Right.
Was in the small town is so they kind of shared like a school bus with the public schools. And so I did elementary school with a school that was really run by a bunch of nuns.
Okay.
But on the school bus, we shared it with the public school kids. So I was in the first grade. And so my first name is Hugo.
Okay.
And so we had it on this bus, and we'd have to drop off the public school kids before we went to the other small town where this Catholic school was.
Okay.
But before he would get off the bus, so there was a guy in 8th grade, and I'm in the first grade. He found out my name was Hugo, and every time he would say, Hugo, then I go, then we all go. And the whole bus would start laughing.
Right.
So I felt, completely bullied my first grade. My
okay.
brother heard it, but he
Right.
couldn't do anything. He was only in 3rd grade.
Right.
Never told my parents, never did anything. So I had to endure this bullying for a whole year. Comes to the point that where I hated my name. So when I got to high school, I
Right.
changed. I said, well, I'm tired of this. I'm going to put an end to it. So I changed my name to Hugh. I put it H. So I said Hugh.
Right.
And so fast forward, and after now you go through another 20 years of this.
Right.
So a lot of people know me as Hugh, like in high school or UT and stuff,
right.
or early on in my 20s.
Right.
And then thank God I had a guy that I did a 5th step. We can talk about the steps, like a sponsor in AA.
Right.
And he was saying is I think a way to kind of almost get back some of your self-esteem is to recapture your name, go
Right.
back to Hugo.
Right.
So that's why then when I went back later on, when I got my MBA,
Okay.
I went back to Hugo.
Okay.
So if you actually see my high school diploma, my
Right.
undergrad degree, and my NBA,
Right.
they have 3 different names. Because my middle name, even I Americanized in high school. So I went to
Okay.
Hugh John, even though I'm Croatian. Then I got to UT, it was Hugh Ivo Versalovic. IVO is my middle name.
Okay.
And then when I went to Rice, I said, I'm going to go back to my what's on my birth certificate,
Right.
Hugo Ivo Versalovic.
Right.
So you can see and think, are you 3 different people? I go, well, at different points in my life. Yeah,
probably
you
that's
felt
my
like
identity
that's how I
theft was going
felt.
on around
Right. So, but that goes to some of the stuff. So,
Right.
but here's the other thing is what a lot of people probably feel this as well is so I was growing up. So I'm trying to go back and forth a little what I learned in therapy to kind of just put everything in context to help people understand what they could kind of either feel or what they kind of maybe have always questioned. So
Mhm.
my therapist, my psychologist, he asked me, he goes, "Did you feel loved growing up?"
Right.
And I said, "Yes and no." And here's the thing, because I always showed it. You know, my parents were always there. My dad worked so hard every day. I
Right.
learned my work ethic from my father.
Right.
My mother was always there cooking meals, making sure she was a
Mhm.
stay-at-home mom, but you know, she made sure all the clothes were clean, everything was gone. We did family vacations. We would go to Disney World. We went up to Maine when we lived up. When we moved down to Texas, we went out to Colorado to a dude ranch. We'd go
Right.
back home to see the family in Bolivia. But here's the other thing is I never heard the words, "Oh, I love you," or you know,
Mhm.
get those hugs, or
Right.
"I'm proud of you."
Right.
So there was never any of that kind of verbal affirmations that we
Okay.
always need.
Right.
So I always, in my way, I felt loved, but I also needed some type of we needed as humans a certain amount of validation,
Right.
you know, affirm, you know, kind of what we're doing. So I had all this kind of going on. And
Mhm.
so when I was going back to when we talked about, you know, your first drink, so I was pushed a lot academically, athletically, and spiritually.
Okay.
But I wasn't pushed, and just because my parents just unfortunately didn't really understand emotions because they weren't taught by their parents. And so
Right.
this goes back. So a lot of people, so kind of like a long answer to your question is, you know, a lot of people don't understand therapy because they've never been
True.
shown what therapy is. And it's not
that's
really, and a lot
exactly-
of people, we say, well, my parents didn't do this. Well, and so again, my therapist had to kind of tell me, he goes, you got to cut your parents a little bit of slack.
Right.
They probably didn't learn that
True.
from their parents.
True.
So you got to understand, you know, say they probably did the best they can. So he explained it this way, which I think was the perfect way to explain it. He
Right.
says they did the best they can. They did the best they could. But as a child, you did deserve more.
Right.
And it was okay to actually want more, deserve more, need more.
Right.
But your parents, and a lot of it, especially, you can almost like say, because, you know, there's people that, you know, grew up with only one parent in the household,
Uh-huh.
or maybe a parent and a grandparent, or
Right.
something else. And, you know, they're probably just busy just trying to make sure that the lights are on, you know, making sure that they're, you know, all the bills are paid, you know, it's just so much. I mean,
Mhm.
and even the people who have like a lot of kids, you know, my parents just had, it was, you know, two people, it was both my mom and dad, and it was only
Right.
two of us. So it's a little more of a manageable household.
Right.
Sometimes a lot of people come from households that have just a lot going on.
Right.
And so sometimes you can't really do it. So, and that's the thing that a lot of people have to realize is most of us, I would probably say a high number, hard to put a number on it,
Mhm.
don't really get any type of experience or getting someone to explain therapy because no one went to therapy.
Right. So now, because you went back to therapy again, right? So I'm gonna go back to the beer you used to watch your dad drink. You know what I'm saying? You see the suds on top. Did he let you drink the suds, or did you just slip
Right.
and do it sometimes?
No, I didn't have to, because he did right
He'll
there at the
let you do
dinner.
it.
When we would do that, all four of us were sitting
Right.
there at the dinner table, and I would drink the suds off of it, and he was cool with it. My mom was
Right.
cool with it. My brother didn't do it.
Okay, so he didn't. He didn't do it during that time period, but you did. So did you look forward to it? Was there a point as a kid? Did you look forward to those suds or drinking?
I believe it's kind of started early on that you almost kind of anticipated, oh, this is something
Right.
kind of cool. You know,
Right.
it's kind of like, felt like I said, to me, the foam on a beer was
Right.
almost the equivalent of whipped cream on a
Right.
Sunday.
Right.
Now, who doesn't want, as a little kid, doesn't want
True.
to eat?
Hey,
They'll
hey.
get that whipped cream going. I mean, you know, I
didn't
love
have
the
no
ice
either from
cream.
that.
I like the bananas, do the banana split, but I love that whipped cream.
Right.
The same thing with the foam. So it was almost like brainwashing ourselves,
Right.
like saying,
So
This
how did
is something
so
good.
how did that translate as you got older, to like high school?
I just drank a lot more beer.
You drank a little more.
I mean, no, that was
Right,
always
that was
been
your
my
thing.
drink of choice.
Right.
I mean, later on, you know, I drank also vodka and tequila.
Right. So
But
that-
my go-to
so-
was always beer.
Always
And that
beer.
was always kind of like when we grew up, you know, my father, my brother.
Mhm.
Now my brother, you know, still, but you know, he gets into all different things. At
Right.
certain times he got into like wine. Now he gets more
Right.
into kind of craft liquors and stuff like that. But you know, some people change. You know, my dad, as he got older, it was just always a beer. It was number
Right.
one. But if he was like at a dinner, he always wanted his whiskey.
Okay.
You know, but you know, those
Right.
kind of things. And you know, I think, but all drinkers have their
They have
their
thing.
drink of
You're right.
choice. And it's the same
That's
thing
what they
like-
say. If
but it's
if
the
a
same thing
person's
like-
crown is crown.
right.
What's your thing, Fedora?
Tito's and vodka.
See, she knows Tito's and vodka.
She knows
you
her
can't
drink.
bring her no Ciroc because she's just gonna look at you like something wrong with you.
Or
She's
some
like, no,
Henny. Or
you-
she
you're
not gonna really like
not-
Too sugary.
I'm not
See?
doing no Henny.
She already
And
she already knows
and
she already knows what it
you know
tastes
what I'm
like.
You know? and that's cool. You know what I'm saying? We know what we want now, and I'm trying to highlight some things. So that's why
Good.
I'm
no,
gonna
no,
keep going to what I'm
I
going. Right?
love how this is going.
You know, so I'm really trying to build it. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to
Right,
build it
you do.
because now it's just really like I'm gonna go back to other communities where they grew up in that area, that neighborhood, right? They see
Correct.
different impressions, so their brains are still developing, and so they're making a choice. Like I told you, I didn't drink anything until I was like 27, 28, maybe 28 years old, right? Because it's just something I chose not to do. I seen it. You know what? No, I didn't see it. I seen smoking of weed. I seen that coming up. Like I seen that. Oh, little boy. I seen weed smoking forever.
But did you
I never
smoke
smoked.
weed at
Nope.
all in high school?
Nope.
Yeah, the
ever.
first time I got high was
Right.
13. Right.
And I don't even like smoke.
Okay.
I don't like smoke around me. You know what I'm saying? So, you know,
Was that because you were trying to be different, like
no,
outside of what
no,
everyone else was?
no, it wasn't that. It just
It's not a desire.
Yeah, it wasn't a desire. Even though I seen it, I didn't see. You know, I would see it and I would look at it. I'm talking about in my house too.
Mhm.
But you were never tempted, like peer pressure.
Never.
Never had any buddies go, "Hey, come on, we're gonna go after playing some ball. We're gonna go smoke a little
I was always
or drink a
I
little."
was always a leader for whatever reason.
Okay.
Even with just playing bigger kids, whatever. You know, so nobody ever tried to peer pressure me. I watched people peer pressure. I was never bullied. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if it was just a fortunate thing that happened.
Maybe your size.
You know what I'm saying? No, I wasn't always in my size though. You know what I'm saying? Because you know you had to grow into that at some point. So it wasn't that. I think it was just more of maybe just the way I looked at things. I looked at things different. You know, I think I probably thought I was weird. Honestly, that's probably I thought I was weird, even though I was a cool kid. You know what I'm saying? And I was cool with everybody. Nobody was mess with me or nothing like that.
But did any friends ever ask you?
No.
I mean, I'm sure you had friends that drank a lot or smoked.
No.
None of your friends.
Yes,
did? So that's part of that helps.
My
group.
circle. You know what I'm saying? So even as a young boy, you know what I'm saying? I controlled my circle.
Right.
So I wasn't hanging with these guys that did this right here. I was cool with them. You know what I'm saying? But when they got ready to do whatever they did, I would be like, okay, I'm gonna holler at y'all. Like, yeah, okay, G, we'll holler at you later. You know,
good.
They knew I wasn't going that direction no matter what. You know what I'm saying? So I was fortunate. But a lot of my friends, you know what I'm saying, friend like Sammy Cole, we all stayed in the same environment. You know what I'm saying? So we all had the same issues, the same everything. But some of them turned out and, you know, went to prison or, you know, murdered people. You know, those things happen with them. And it's probably just maybe the way they cope with things. I'm not sure. But still, even though all those things are going on, everybody's parents is on food stamps. Everybody's parents is on whatever the means of the government. Everybody stood in the lines, get the cheese. That's just what we did, right? Because that's the environment. Okay. But never was there somebody saying, hey, you know, they come talk to a therapist, or it wasn't even a conversation. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't hear nothing about therapy or therapists until I went to the military.
That's true. Needed it, right?
Was that?
Because you needed it.
No, because it's classes. They give you these classes.
Okay.
You know, because they push it on you. You know what I'm saying? Not push you to go, but you're going to learn about it because there's this class or the class or the class, because they want to help people and they understand that people come from different backgrounds. You know what I'm saying? And they say, hey, you need to talk to somebody. I'm like, I'm not going to talk to nobody. What are you talking about?
Well, on top of that, though,
we don't need to talk to anybody.
Right. But on top of that, going through a tour.
Right. Well, that
this
is before tour.
No, right, correct. But what I'm saying is you almost need to prepare people because with some of the things that they may see or encounter can be very traumatic.
Right. And that's true.
That's why so many soldiers can come back with PTSD.
True. But I don't even know if
well, but then nowadays, you know, those numbers are completely skewed because you know, that's always been and that tell me something, because I've always had this kind of question, you know, we as a country, you know, we talk about Veterans Day. Everyone wants, you know, says salute, you know, proud of your service and this and that. But it almost felt it feels to me at times almost that the government talks a big game, but then they don't back it up when people are either getting discharged from the military or when they either come back from a tour to give them enough mental health resources. And tell me if you felt that our U.S. government does not support the mental health as much as they say they do.
You know what? I'm gonna tell you, I can't agree with that.
Okay.
I think they overdo it, and not in a bad way, because I think what happened, they learned back with Vietnam. Vietnam taught a lot of lessons because a lot of people came back messed up. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And people saw those people that came back as, oh, something wrong with them. They're weird. They're on drugs and all this stuff like that. And I really think now, I think that, and I'm not just saying this, this is really how I feel because I don't hold nothing back. I say, I think they do a great job now because when I tell you there are more mental health providers that are alongside with the military right now, you know what I'm saying? Even in war, out of war, it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? Like they're always, and I told you that before we even started this, they are in your face. Hey, you know what I'm saying? You need to talk to somebody. We have this program for you. Even exiting, hey, we got a program for you. And what I think it is, it falls on, you got to think some people have addictions when they get out of the military. They have addictions, they have alcohol problems, whatever. So they don't want to go see these people, even though it's open. And trust me, the veterans, the VA, I get 1,000 emails a day since the day I retired, constantly. Hey, if you need help right here, here's the 1-800 hotline. Call us, come to the VA. You know what I'm saying? They bring you back once a year now. You know what I'm saying? No, once a year they bring you back so you can have an evaluation now because they want to make sure, you know what I'm saying, that they're taking care of the veterans. So I really think they're doing a great job, honestly. I think more people run away. I think more people run away from it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, but here's the thing, though. But I mean, the one thing that always kind of worries me, and is I did this in one of my videos, like on suicide, is the suicide rate with military people that are active in the military or have been, you know, ex-military is higher than the normal population. And I guess that's where I always kind of wish, and I hear what you're saying. Is it also depends on the individual.
I think that's a percentage thing, honestly, because you got to remember the military is a very small bubble in relation to society, right? So if you take these individuals out of society, you put them into the small bubble, right? So if 10 people commit suicide in that bubble, you know what I'm saying? Statistically, you know what I'm saying? You're going to say this in this percentage or whatever, but it's nowhere near what's out here in society that's happening. It's just projected because we can see that. We can't see society.
It's easier, it's measurable.
There you go. Because you can't, perfect. It's measurable.
Yeah.
You know
but you also have to take into consideration the effectiveness of therapy. So if they're going to therapy and it's a requirement to go every year, once a year, and they're still struggling, then maybe the therapy is not as effective. And then that's where other people from other
fields. So that's what I'm saying.
In.
So what happens then? You know what I'm saying? Like, so, you know, and I look at it from a standpoint in society why so many people could commit suicide. They have never did anything with the military, but they just commit suicide. You know what I'm saying? Like these kids, their parents are going in the bedroom, the kid is there and say, well, they got bullied on social media. And so they killed themselves. You see what I'm saying? So it's more or less what could have been in place for that kid so that they didn't do it. You know what I'm saying? So it's really saying the same thing. Like even the military is like, okay, if some people all say, well, something could have been done. Well, like, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying like, well, what? But it's not like every effort wasn't extended. If a person wants to do something, they're going to do it. There's nothing you can do. Like if I wanted to go out here, if I want to say I'm going to the bathroom real quick and go in and kill myself, there's nothing you could have done. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing nobody could have done. No. I was just going to do it. And everything could have been offered to me. You know what I'm saying? So it couldn't have been said that, hey, well, we didn't offer everything possible to Brian. You know what I'm saying? And he did this too. What's that?
Would you believe that?
For myself. I'm not talking about for me. That's what I'm saying. I can only talk about for me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, like, if I wouldn't have did that just now, you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying that everything for me has been offered to me. You know what I'm saying? Okay. And sure, we can always say, was there enough? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's for anything in life, you know what I'm saying? And we can say it from an institutional standpoint, or we can say it from a reality standpoint, because we know there's two different thought processes. Everybody, you know, we all have the institutional answer. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? If we've been in college, we have an institutional answer. You know what I'm saying? But that's a societal answer too. You know what I'm saying? The reality.
Well, then let's ask the big question, like you said about therapy.
Okay.
You know, whether we're talking about any community or any gender or any type of group.
Right.
So I usually like to start any type of talk of mine by stating how I feel.
Right.
Because usually I like to say, because for most days now, because I've kind of tried to refocus and I start my day a certain way, is that I am usually like right now, I feel happy. I feel kind of content, you know, because we've kind of made a connection. I feel kind of relaxed. talk about, my mind's still kind of, and I've kind of almost kind of just be almost in the moment, feel kind of like, there's almost a piece of, kind of joy. I kind of woke up today because I knew I was going to do this podcast. I knew
Right.
kind of the work stuff. I know, and then part of it, feels good. You're coming into Valentine's Day, and
Right.
if you love someone, you're kind of looking forward to seeing, someone you love, and then also knowing, So today, to me is it's always good to state your feelings. Now, some of the things that
Right.
have been going on in the beginning of the year, just because kind of COVID, there's been some like cash flow issues, like you talk about,
Right.
stress in business. I'm trying to
Right.
get certain other, besides my motivational speak, and I also have an industrial supply company. So I'm also, got like plants, like ordering a bunch of stuff, but they need a lot of stuff, and I just need a certain amount of capital. I'm kind of, stressing about either stressing or feeling overwhelmed about, okay, how much cash do I need? How much cash is coming in?
Right.
And then, it's trying to make, trying to flip things, because, part of it, that's why we're in business,
Definitely,
to make money,
definitely.
money's a good thing too. But so I would always ask you is, how do you feel tonight?
Man, I feel wonderful. And when I say wonderful, I feel wonderful in the sense of I probably look at things a lot different. You know what I'm saying? Like I said it before, because one, I'm a resilient person. You know what I'm saying? And I've faced a lot of things, you know what I'm saying, as far as just life possibly ending at different times, multiple times, you know what I'm saying, multiple nights, you know what I'm saying? So certain things you just have to come to realization with yourself, and then you just say, hey, you know what? I love living. I appreciate living. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate my higher power. And every day that I open my eyes, you know what I'm saying, I gotta go. I gotta go hard. You know what I'm saying? And so that's why no matter what anybody, my friends or people that are around me, you know what I'm saying, they know that hey, if G come, he's bringing that thing with him. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that thing is life. You know what I'm saying? Because
Right.
I'll tell you, I appreciate life so much. I
Is it-
appreciate it so much.
Did you have this feeling before the military or after the military?
Before the military.
Before the
Yep,
military,
yes.
you appreciate. You kind of knew what
I appreciate it. Probably when I was I think what happened was I was with my uncle one time, and I love to swim. And so we was I used to go to the pier, he used to take me fishing all the time. And so we was up in North Carolina, we was up on the pier, and I wanted to go swimming. And so he was like, okay, go on down there. So I went out to the beach and I'm jumping waves. And so and the tide had shifted. So I was jumping the waves, but I was way out there. And I looked over and I was like even with the pier end of the pier.
Right.
And so when I never turned back, look at the beach. And so I said, hold up. And I turned around and looked, and I was like, oh my goodness. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, at the time, I think I'm like 11 years old, between 9 and 11. And so I immediately start trying to swim back straight,
Right.
and I'm like, nobody can hear me because the pier is way over there and the beach is like forever. And so I was swimming, I was getting tired, and I almost panicked, but then I stopped, and I don't know what it was, I just turned on my back, in the waves, so I'm floating, but I'm
Let it
going
carry
further
you.
out.
Yeah.
I'm going further out, and I don't know what it was, and I said, you know what? I can't get back going straight, so I'm gonna go diagonal, and so I started swimming diagonal, and I could see myself kind of going in. So about an hour later,
Yeah.
I finally get to the beach, and I touched the ground, and I ran straight up all the way up to the top, and I just laid there, and I think I passed out. But when I woke up, it seemed like it was a whole new day because I was exhausted.
Right.
And I walked back to the top of the pier. And my uncle was like, "Where you been at?" And I said, "I ain't want to get in trouble." I said, "Oh, I was just swimming." I was just swimming. But that day, I appreciated life so much. Like I said, I was probably 9, 10, 11 years old, and from that day, it's like I became, like who I am now,
Right.
and I
Excellent.
So a
appreciate it.
traumatic experience.
It was traumatic.
Or
Trust me.
near death.
It was, yeah. It was
No, but a lot
definitely
of times people, that's how,
Right.
unfortunately,
Right.
a lot of us learn through some type of near death experience.
Right.
And I always say is our greatest teacher is pain.
Mm.
And that's what, and it's all types of pain.
Right.
There's physical pain, there's financial pain,
Mm.
there's emotional pain.
Definitely.
And those are the ones that that we actually almost propels us to do something to
Right.
change.
Right.
You know, 'cause we can be told a lot by our parents or by our preacher, pastor, or you can read a book.
Right,
You know, you can
right.
see something about some motivational
Right.
speaker, but until you go through that pain, that heartache, you know, like losing a lot of money, some woman or man breaking your heart,
Right. Right.
or getting beat up, or doing something where you break a bone thinking, oh, I'm gonna be funny, I'm gonna do this
Right.
trick I just saw on YouTube, I do it, and then you know it turns south, and then all of a sudden I'm in the hospital.
Right.
Unfortunately, that usually happens.
True.
You know, that happened in me. You know, I had to go through that. Propelled me as pain, but like as you were talking about, I had 3 different experiences
Right.
where I thought I should have been killed by a vehicle.
Okay.
And that kind of changes now. I didn't quite you know, change how I was thinking, you know, right after.
Mhm.
I can vividly remember I was 8 years old in La Paz, Bolivia. I was
Okay.
with my cousin.
Right.
This is a very busy street, and we were trying to cross it. So you're talking about like 4 lanes for each. So you're trying to cross like 8 lanes of traffic. So we get across the first 4. And so I'm about 8 years old, and I'm holding the hand of my cousin. She's probably about 13. My brother is also there with another cousin. She's probably around 12.
Right.
Somehow we realized, oh shit, we're in the middle of a busy street.
Right.
We can't get to the other side.
Uh-huh.
We have an instant to get back to this other side before all this traffic.
Right.
And they have what they call like those big public buses,
Uh-huh.
and they don't stop. They'll
Right.
run over whoever, an Indian or everything.
Go ahead,
All
keep
of a
talking.
sudden,
I got
all of a
something to
sudden, my brother and my other cousin, they started back, and they actually get to the other side.
Mhm.
No problem. We're like about half a step behind them.
Yeah.
And I'm the one who's closest to the bus.
Oh wow.
And I'm holding on to my cousin's hand.
Mm-hmm.
And I could almost feel the bus
Oh my goodness.
almost with the wind going like behind me. Like,
Wow.
and I could see it was just another half second, or
Yeah.
even maybe even a tenth of a second.
Oh my
I could have been clipped by the bus. I mean, maybe I wouldn't have been killed, but
Right.
could have caused some serious damage. The other one happened in the early 90s.
Mhm.
So here I am, I'm out of college. I'm doing some type of investigative research, maybe trying to figure out, start a business. So
Yeah.
I go to Asia, and I first go to Tokyo.
Oh wow.
And so when you go to Tokyo, they drive on the opposite side of the street.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm here in Tokyo. I'm kind
Yeah.
of learning. Okay, they're not running. I'm kind of learning. Okay, they're driving from the opposite side of the street.
Right.
Now from Tokyo, I go to Taipei, Taiwan. Now,
Mhm.
so the rules have changed. Now in Taiwan, they drive the same way that I drive,
Yeah.
and the same way American drives.
Yeah.
And then when I come through, I'm looking the other way. I'm assuming that the traffic's coming from
Mm-hmm.
the left instead of the right.
Right.
So I'm looking at the traffic, and I don't see anybody coming because there's no other cars.
Yeah.
The cars are behind me. And all of a sudden, I'm about to take a step off the median. I got on the median,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm about to take a step off, and all of a sudden, a car from the other side whizzes by me.
Right.
And I think, if I didn't even see that, if I had
Oh,
actually
wow.
taken a full step, I would have been hit by that car.
Yeah.
And so all these things. And then the other one was about the same time. I'm in my car here in Houston. I'm on 610,
Right.
and realizing I'm in a small Acura Integra.
Okay.
So it's kind of a smaller car.
Right.
And we're coming off a 290, coming off the 610 north, over there, if you really know that interchange. And I didn't realize there was a big 18-wheeler.
Right.
All of a sudden, he's coming to really close. He's right up on me.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't even notice. So, and I turn and I look to the guy that's on my right-hand lane.
Right.
And he signals to this like 1 inch, signifying the 18-wheeler
Mm-hmm.
didn't hit my bumper by about 1 inch. And of course, I would have been completely smothered.
Right.
But a lot of times, those near-death experiences
Right.
kind of teaches us. And that's how I'd always believed kind of early on, I think from the very first, like you were talking about your swimming
Right.
issue, that I always felt that I had some guardian angel watching over me.
Oh yeah.
And I always felt that I was always somehow protected by God, higher power,
Right.
that something else was kind of destined for me. I didn't quite know what it was, but I
Mhm.
kind of at least knew that it wasn't my time.
Right.
And so I kind of had, and I knew that, and I think that always kind of helped. And later on, we can talk about the, different pain and stuff.
Right. Right.
Uh,
Okay. So let me okay.
I was just gonna say, I wanted to ask you about your traumatic experience. From that moment on, did you feel like you needed to seek therapy or needed help because you kept a secret from your dad because you felt that
Uncle.
you didn't want to get in trouble, right?
Right.
And
Well,
just
no,
talking
because
about-
I was missing for a while, so for
Right.
so long.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
yeah, do they even know that you almost died or
Yeah, I told my mother like probably like some years later.
years later? Yeah.
Years later.
But never in
we
that
just
moment you
unlucky.
felt like, oh my God, like that was so near death that I need to go to therapy. I need
Oh, no,
help. I
it-
need
No,
No?
I'm from the hood, so no, that right there wasn't a
Mhm.
big deal.
okay.
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. It's the way people take certain things.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like somebody else that could have just totally wiped them out. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And for me, okay, I think just certain things about your background make you a little tougher.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? For certain things, not everything, but just for certain things. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So, and that's why I don't think it would definitely nothing I need to go talk to somebody about.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even think about it even as a kid
Right.
anymore. It was just one of those things like, oh shoot, that happened.
Yeah.
That was
And
it.
therapy, what does therapy mean for you then?
For me,
Yeah.
help.
Mhm.
That's what it means. And I'm talking from an understanding now. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So for me, I know what it is.
Right.
I know it's help. I know it's assistance. You know what I'm saying? I know it's helping us get through something. You know what I'm saying? But the person still has to get through it himself.
Right.
The therapist can't do it. It has to be the person. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it all means for me.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? But the thing is, for somebody who doesn't know,
Mhm.
you feel what I'm saying? And that's what I'm going for and going at. It's the people who don't know this. I didn't know. You couldn't tell me that when I was younger. You could, as a teenager or a young man who's 20, you couldn't tell me, hey, G, here go a therapist over here wants you to talk to him.
Mhm.
You weren't gonna tell me that because my environment taught me one,
Something
it
different.
wasn't even a conversation.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like we barely could go see a regular doctor. So lo and behold, to see a therapist. You know what I'm saying? You're like, people didn't even go to the hospital for nothing unless you almost dead. You went to the hospital. So you think we never even seen anybody that did anything medical. You feel what I'm saying? So to imagine bringing that conversation to somebody like that, talking about a therapist, we looking like something's wrong with you. We know about what we used to call, there was a place called Oberry and Cherry Hospital, right? They were like the label was they were the crazy hospitals, right? People that had problems, that's where they went. So the joke would always be, oh, you acting like you need to go to that hospital. I'm thinking every city probably has it, you know what I'm saying, has one that's part of the conversation because it becomes the culture or your community that doesn't see it as something that you need to do because it doesn't make you, that's not going to help you. You feel what I'm saying? That's the thought process is what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? So that's why when you ask that question, you asking me now, you know what I'm saying? My answer is totally different.
Right.
You ask him now, his answer is totally different. And that's why I was trying to walk to the point when you first ever went to a therapist, because I'm trying to see
Right.
your mindset so you can kind of understand where I'm coming from with this, as far as how some cultures and people will look at therapy, you know what I'm saying, or going to counseling as more of a, no, only weak people go do that.
Right, and I did too.
You
And
feel what I'm
so that's
saying?
the same
Yeah.
as I did
Right.
too growing up, because I was always given the messages is that especially as a male, that you have to solve your own problem.
Right.
And now you didn't really ask anybody else. And unfortunately, that's the wrong message we should be telling
True.
boys and girls
Right.
growing up. It is actually a sign of strength to ask for
Definitely.
help.
It's definitely
We all don't have, nobody
strong.
has the answers.
Right.
And our parents don't have all the answers, or even if we go to a priest or a pastor or a counselor,
Right.
they don't have all the answers.
Not at all.
And you can't read all the books, and you sure cannot Google it.
Right.
You cannot Google, I'm feeling this. Because that's the worst thing to do is to self-diagnose yourself.
Right.
And too many people are now doing it because
they are
they
doing it.
see YouTube or Google
Right.
and they're actually getting it further because now with the pandemic, we've only seen increases in addiction, increases in anxiety, increases in depression, increases in suicide. But no one's really talking about that. Where, everyone's talking about, which is obviously very important, is, the jobs and the economic issue, but, caused by the pandemic.
Right.
But because more people are staying at home,
Mm-hmm.
they're doing things that are more destructive. So
Right.
here's the thing.
you
So
think-
here's
do
the
you-
thing.
well, hold on.
Well, no, wait, what's that? But the one thing is,
No, hold on,
okay.
No, I'm saying because he's right on something. I want to see what Tony had to say right here.
Okay. Growing up in rural South, all we ever heard of was so got sent up the river to the crazy house.
Yeah. See what I'm saying?
Right.
And it's geographically too now. See, and that's the thing. People, you can come from a certain area and certain things go on in certain areas, right? That don't go on over here, right? And so now you can have a diagnosis for something over here, but because of, I asked you where you were from. I asked you for a reason, because from a geographic standpoint, you know what I'm saying? A young African American female, okay, you're approximately 22 years old, right? And you grew up in the middle part of Texas, okay? You say you went from Houston to New Braunfels to, Seals, so I'm looking at that piece right there. So now if I ask another person, if I mention Jackson, Mississippi, right? Things are different there. Then I mentioned, if I go to North Carolina, if I go to Georgia, it's just like Tony M. I think Tony M. Where you from? Are you from like Georgia area? And the reason why I'm saying that, because generally in that area, that's the response you would get in those areas from African-American males, right? So it must mean there's something different. You know what I'm saying? Now, if I wouldn't get that answer, maybe here in Texas or maybe in Arizona, I might not get that answer from African Americans, just based off of their community and who they're around. But if I go to these certain spots, I'm gonna probably get that same response. I can guarantee you.
And what are those certain spots?
What's that?
Can you describe the certain spots that you would go to that you guarantee you'll get a response?
Probably Southern African American places.
Okay.
And what it's not saying that Texas is not South,
Right.
but we saying like maybe the original colony states,
Mm-hmm.
Those states, just because certain things happen in those areas. Like, I'm not gonna ride around here and see plantations, right? But I can take you to North Carolina. I can show you every plantation in the world.
Yeah.
You tell me a name from the States, and I can take you to the plantation, right?
Yeah, but would they think any differently if they're from New York City or Chicago or even LA?
I don't know.
Well, no, but I would
don't
assume that
know.
that's very similar. Though what I'm saying is I think the misunderstanding of therapy
Right.
is like I was trying to tell you earlier, in the book of Alcoholics Anonymous, they say contempt prior to investigation.
Okay.
So a lot of people, whether they're Hispanic, like me growing up,
Right.
like you're saying, African American,
Right.
even the whites or the Asians,
Right.
or we can talk about religions, Catholics or Jews or
True.
Muslims,
True.
men or women. A lot of people have preconceived ideas of what therapy is, unfortunately, because maybe they saw back in the 70s the movie One Flew Over Cuckoo's Nest.
Right.
They saw, man, if it's Jack Nicholson and all this crazy stuff's going on,
Right.
those are the people that need therapy. The
Right.
people in the nut house. Well, we don't have those state hospitals the way we did back in the 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s, even the
Right.
early 70s.
But in North Carolina, they do.
They still no. I mean,
South Carolina, they do.
they still have state hospitals,
Right.
but they're
No, I'm
not
talking about the
one-
number.
Oh,
No, I'm saying the number.
oh,
Yeah, they do.
okay,
And that's what I'm saying. Sometimes it's geographic. It's geographic. You know what I'm saying?
right. But
You
I
know.
think also since the 1980s, because
Right.
of the DSM, that's the book that all the psychiatrists and the psychologists use, to actually classify psychiatric or
Right.
mental disorders.
Right.
Has made a lot of more inroads because now
Right.
you see in movies people are a lot more comfortable talking about 12 steps of recovery. People are much
Mhm.
more at ease seeing someone in therapy, even
Yeah.
though that
Right.
old thing about, you got to lay on the couch, that's such that's such an old school, most
Right.
people sit in a chair and they talk, the whole,
Right.
one-on-one, kind of like, just tell me what's going on.
True.
And so I think we're slowly breaking
So when you
down
say,
barriers,
so
but
when,
there's
so when you
still-
say we're slowly, what classification are you saying? What we're
I just think
is-
overall in let's just say the American society
Okay.
from all different aspects. Now,
Right.
it may be a little more prevalent in certain other either races or
Mhm.
groups,
Right.
but I think overall it's like anything.
Mhm.
You have to see it to
Right.
believe it.
Right.
The first example is when Sandra Day O'Connor
Mhm.
was actually nominated and then elevated to the Supreme Court by Ronald Reagan in 1981. She was
Okay.
the very first woman. And we already had, Thurgood Marshall, came in, but she was the very first woman. And they
Right.
said is she had always said is it's very important
Mhm.
because other girls, other women have to see a
Right.
woman as a Supreme Court justice to make it actually believable.
Right.
And that's, and we've seen that, in the power of, when Barack Obama became president.
Mhm.
Unless it's actually being attained by somebody,
Right.
it doesn't really become real. And I think it's the same thing like with therapy, as long as we can keep talking about it, and you see it either on Clubhouse or you see in other things, people are
Right.
actually bringing this up. And even in the African American, the Black community, you
Right.
see people either on Clubhouse debating this, what is
Right.
mental health?
True. And
And,
what
they
what
may-
have you seen in that though? If you go
I've
into those
seen both.
rooms and
Well, I've seen certain, the beauty is
right.
the men who have actually gone to therapy and had an open mind. A lot of
Right.
times it's like she's saying is it's contemporary investigation. Sometimes they may have been forced, may have been a court order to go
Right.
see some therapy. You got anger management, there may be domestic violence, there may
Mhm.
be some other type of physical thing or some type of
Right.
trauma, like maybe like you said, like in the military,
Right.
they've actually been exposed to this.
You have a fork?
Mhm.
Okay, I'll just make sure you say.
Well, I can't eat shrimp,
Oh
so
shoot!
that's why I passed it.
Oh,
to
for
him.
real?
Like, oh, you want to be
No,
controlling?
no. I thought you thought it was only one with shrimp in it.
Mm-mm. I
That's
knew
the
what I
only
was
reason why.
doing.
Oh shoot! Okay.
No, it's,
So what is the other thing? The soup? You can't eat soup. The soup.
I'm not
It's not shrimp
entirely
though.
sure.
Yeah, it's not shrimp soup.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that is.
It's soup. You don't eat your soup.
No, I'm okay.
You just picky.
Mhm.
She eat a burger though. She eat a old greasy burger.
Yeah.
You want me to get you a greasy burger?
Oh no, I'm fine.
You sure?
no,
yeah.
she get it.
Okay, I'll
No,
make it
she
happen
wants-
for you.
No, women, you
Right.
gotta, you gotta
Why?
feed them.
What I'm saying, if you want a burger, I can make a burger. happen
She's
for you.
allergic to seafood. That's the thing.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm
See,
sorry.
Hugo did not put that
Well,
information out there.
Well,
He was worried
So
about
that-
getting his food.
He
that's
was.
all.
See what I'm saying? Hugo, you were not
No worries.
compassionate. See all this therapy
No,
stuff,
man,
and you wouldn't. The therapists
well,
don't talk
you
about
know,
that.
I thought that you would ask. Sometimes the host, it
What's that?
was about. I think, yeah, I should have.
Yeah, man.
I
See,
should've
that was
pushed.
Hugo's fault. Okay, I
I'll
want you to
take
know.
it.
He,
No
you
worries.
I
know.
owe you.
I can make it happen for you though.
Okay, please do.
All
Please
right.
send me the bill.
Do you eat burgers?
Yes.
Yes, I eat.
Okay, all
He
right.
eats
So
meat,
make sure
chicken or
because you
beef.
mess around and be don't eat
Ruggles
burgers.
Black, preferably.
Who?
It's called Ruggles Black in Kirby.
No.
Off Kirby Drive. I forget he's not from
Yeah. See,
No,
you
he's
trying to
not.
make
He's
up
in
some stuff
Texas.
right here.
Houston.
You know.
No, but going back to it, it's like the contemporary investigation. A lot of people just, aren't exposed to it, so they have
Right.
those and I had the same thing. Like I said, like you asked me in the early 30s, early 20s, I got out of college, and I thought
Right.
only either crazy people,
Uh-huh.
that actually had some type of diagnosis. They were schizophrenic, they were borderline, or they were narcissistic. They were something that was, really diagnosed by some
Right.
type of medical professional.
Right.
And then the other thing is or someone that was kind of very rich and it just had, the
Uh-huh.
extra time.
Right.
And it's also like a sign of weakness.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it was in my family, because when I
Right.
went into it and I actually started going.
So how
into
do we
things.
address this though? That,
Well, that's what I say. You got
that's
to
my
keep
question.
talking. We got to keep talking.
But how do we
about
get it to the audience? Though? How do we get it to these people? And
Well,
how do we
that's
get
what-
them to understand?
Well, that's what I was trying to do when I started this company about a year and a
Okay.
half ago, to go
Right.
to schools, go to talk about middle schools, because I had different types of different speeches like that are geared towards middle schools and high schools compared
Right.
to ones that are geared towards the recovery centers.
Okay.
Like recovery centers, I could talk about the 12 steps of recovery and
Right.
what they kind of mean and how I've kind of reworded them, kind of changed it to make it more innovative, creative to kind of people. I hate when people say, well, I've been to inpatient therapy to
Right.
rehab, which is about $30,000, $40,000 for 30 days. And they've been in 4 or 5 times, whether they have good insurance or they're not. Most people don't have that. But either people that even go either outpatient, a lot of people go in and out of rooms of the 12 steps of anonymous groups. So I was thinking that we got to do something different. We got to do something, at least change it, if no one kind of goes to it. But the same thing with schools. A lot of people, you see a lot more stuff on YouTube about, talking about emotions, vulnerability. I talk about courage. The emotional courage is the toughest kind of courage.
Right.
Do you know why?
Why is that?
If I tell you all the stuff that I've done, who I am,
right,
what I value, my story, owning my story, like they say, owning my shit.
Right.
What is my number one fear? If I tell you everything, all the good stuff and the bad stuff, is I'm afraid of rejection. And rejection is such a deep, powerful emotion that keeps us, I'd rather not talk. And I'm not going to talk to my siblings. I'm not going to talk to my parents. I'm not going to talk to my lover because I don't want to be rejected.
Right.
Because if something's going, especially with a loved one,
right,
you can look at your husband or wife, boyfriend, girlfriend,
right,
and you haven't told them certain things, and now you may have been going out together for 6 months, a year,
right,
and they're like, it's kind of like, I want to tell you something. Sometimes it's better to kind of just open up. And what people don't realize is that there's so many people out there that will support you and love you.
Right.
That even if you do get rejected, if someone doesn't understand or thinks that you're crazy or weird or like taboo, I don't want to touch you anymore.
Right.
There's always somebody else out there. And we're so afraid to either start over. And that's the things we got to just tell people. That's why I was really open. And even when I was talking about, when I was talking about some very emotional issues, and I wanted to talk about kind of a couple things that were considered, kind of negative, or certain things that, caused a lot of pain, emotional pain. And, Ladora said, well, you need to talk about everything,
right.
And then I kind of opened it up, things that,
transparency.
Because here's the thing, it's a lot easier to talk about maybe financial stuff that I could talk about, or, like I said, getting thrown in jail for public urination. Because that's always a joke. How did you get thrown in jail for public urination? Because I immediately, this happened like a few days before Christmas, in college. And immediately my, I go home, and then, my brother's saying, you're the urinator. So I'm hearing all the stuff. How family is.
So you cousins, the bullying,
how brothers and cousins are, especially if they're male. They're not going to let you easily forget why you got thrown in, even though it was only 8 hours.
Right.
But sometimes the sexual stuff is very hard to talk about.
It is.
And especially and how it happened, and people say, and a lot of times it's associated. Well, I was drunk, I was high, I was this, and kind of going on, and sometimes that keeps us from talking because we're afraid to get rejected.
Definitely,
and then realizes that
and afraid of judgment. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Judgment is a big thing, and I'm sure judgment and rejection can kind of go hand in hand in a lot of cases. You know what I'm saying? And I think the judgment thing is when it comes to therapy and people talking to people, that's what they're most afraid of, because you're going to judge me, right? And if you're most people look at it, if you're in a leadership position as a boss, you run a company, right? And you're meant to be seen as strong, and you're in control, and you can handle business all the time, right? And then they found out you going to see a therapist, oh man, they can look at me a certain way. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna look at me like I'm weak. They can try to, say this and say that to me. You know what I'm saying? Because for me, this is them thinking.
Right. Because they're
thinking this. I'm saying this is what's actually happened. This is just what they're thinking.
Right.
So I can't say anything to anybody. I can't go talk to a therapist because I don't want anybody to say anything to me or judge me, basically, or think that I'm weak. And this is what I'm saying. It happens in a lot of communities.
Well, it does, because they're afraid, because they've experienced people backstabbing.
Right.
They said, "Oh, you said I was your friend."
Right.
And all of a sudden now it becomes not only information, it becomes ammunition.
Right.
And that's what people are afraid. And because it's happened over and over, and they've seen it happen to other kids. And sometimes I would say is like they learn early on.
Right.
Open your mouth, is going to be turned on you.
Right. Because it also becomes like vulnerability. Who loves to give up their vulnerabilities? Nobody loves to do that. You know what
No,
I'm saying? You know, people don't even do it in relationships. They don't give all their vulnerability up to their mate. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times, you know what I'm saying? Initially, it don't happen. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Do you know everything about do you know all your boyfriend's vulnerability?
I mean,
All of them?
I would think I would say yes,
Right.
but I mean, obviously, there may be some things I don't know.
Right.
And you don't know what you know until you don't know.
There you go. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just it's a natural thing.
but
You know what I'm
here's
saying?
the other thing.
Talk to me.
We are so concerned about the negative outcome.
True.
So if you go to like Life is Wonderful, and I've talked to I always say, we can look at the glass half full or half empty.
Right. And you told me
Well,
you
we
look at
told-
it half full. That's what
You got to
told
have
me.
to look at that full. That's what I
Right.
do. And so there's a couple things that go on. So first of all, I didn't learn this about 2 years. I've already been in recovery for over 20 years, all
Okay.
this therapy.
Right.
So I went back to something that my mother taught me. This is the one thing the greatest thing my mother ever taught me is how to pray on my knees on my bed.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how, you kind of get older, we kind of pray, or I'll tell you how I was praying, I'd
Right.
be laying in bed or sitting in my car, Mr. Lazy. And I may
Right.
say like a Hail Mary, or I
Uh-huh.
may say, God,
Right.
look after me, give me some strength, this and that.
Right.
But until I actually started about 2 years ago, and it's made a profound effect on my outlook. So I know when people see, when I'm very upbeat, like, in Hello
Right.
Houston, the clubhouse,
Yeah.
because I'm going, life is wonderful.
There you go.
This is
There
it,
you
because
go.
life is wonderful, because I start my day off on my knees. First, I say, this is how I do it. I say,
Right.
Hail Mary,
Mm-hmm.
and then I tell God what I'm grateful for. I'm number one, I'm grateful for my life.
Right.
I'm grateful for my relationships.
Uh-huh.
I'm grateful for my gifts and my talents that
Mm.
he gave me.
Right.
And lastly, I am grateful that I have work,
Mm.
that I have something that I can actually do that can produce.
Right.
And then I also then say, I'm grateful for like my girlfriend, the pets that we have, my mother, my brother, my 2 nieces, and then just my other family and friends.
Right.
And then I just say, hey, it's a beautiful day. And that's the extent.
Right.
And that's all I do, because I think as long as we can instill more gratitude,
Mm-hmm.
because we all have something that we're grateful for.
Definitely.
Sometimes you can always say, people will say, well, someone's got more than me.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. But
And
there's
it-
always someone
it-
that's
it-
got less than you.
Yeah. Say that again.
Someone always has more than you.
Mm.
And it's not just money or
Right.
love or situations or opportunities. That is always true. There is someone that has it easier than you.
Way easier.
But there's always someone that's got it much harder
There
than
you
you.
go.
And you see something, you've been in the military, you see
Right.
people that come back and they're missing a limb.
All the time.
Or they coming back with PTSD. They're
Right.
thinking about that time that they went over the wall and they got all that shot, and they, some bullets are just flying over their heads, and they're
Right.
just reliving that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like mentally they've come back to a different environment. So even when they hear like the police siren, or even just like a cabinet
Right.
slamming shut, they're jumpy.
Right.
But that's the whole thing is people have to realize is our minds are conditioned to go to the negative.
Mm.
Let's take the
Hold on.
okay.
Say it again. You-
Our minds are conditioned to go to the negative.
They
Just
can-
look at
they're
the virus.
So they condition, and like you, and I'm only saying it because that's something I say to some people sometimes. It's like, I say, yo, why is it always you jump to the negative? You know what I'm saying? I don't know if it's a natural thing or it's their environment that made them be that way. Because I don't saying because I don't.
Well,
and
I
I've
think
never,
it's
I don't
usually
think
the-
about the negative first. You know what I'm saying? I'm always looking
Right,
for
but
what's right.
right. But I think for for most people,
Okay.
so and I'm talking about whether you grew up in the inner city, you
Right.
grew up in suburbia, you grew up in the country.
Right.
Most of us have grown up with a situation because,
Mhm.
like you said earlier,
Right.
we don't want to tell people how vulnerable we
True.
are.
True.
So we're already protecting ourselves. I believe it's more environmental. It's not like
Okay.
that, we grow up, our brains
Okay.
are instinctive.
All right. So
but our environment.
that's the only thing I was asking.
But what I'm
was
saying
it
is
that?
though, but take any environment.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Mhm.
No matter where you grew up, how you grew up, whatever your conditions are, the environment almost teaches us to go into protective mode.
Right.
So we're going to protect ourselves. We're going to make sure that we're not going to get hurt.
Okay.
Because we much rather, sadly, not get hurt
Mm-hmm.
than feel love.
Mm.
And that's why I could say, so if we actually, like I was talking about this emotional courage,
Okay.
you know, emotional courages are actually most powerful emotion. It's actually the rawest kind of courage. It
Right.
takes more courage to tell people this is who I am.
Right.
I know a lot of times we associate
Kind of
courage
like,
with the
kind of like with
battlefield.
Anita
Right.
in the book.
Correct.
Oh,
Right.
Kind of like her.
Right. So what I say, so a lot of times is, you know, we associate courage as well. You know, the greatest courage must be on the battlefield.
Mhm.
I'm sure you've heard that a lot. That, you know, and it does require a lot of courage to be on the battlefield. You know, you're willing to die for the guy who's right next to you. You know, do whatever it takes. But a lot of but something that can is help a person who you truly. We're so afraid of rejection and they go
Right.
into that negative. We don't see.
Mhm.
You know what beauty is that we'll actually get more love. We'll actually
Right.
get deeper, intimate relationships, and then we'll actually have people will love us more. People will trust us more.
Right.
People will give us more. And on top of that, you'll have more relationships. You'll have more,
Mhm.
you'll have this thing that you're actually trying to do
Right.
is actually you're trying to do is love unconditionally.
Well, did you
'Cause-
always see the glass half full?
No,
So
I
you-
grew
you-
up. I grew up,
you
you
grew
know,
up with
where
the
well, I
half
grew up
empty
with
thing?
well, I grew up with my mother was very anxious. So I
Okay.
grew up with a very anxious personality.
Right.
And then on top of that, you know, undiagnosed ADD, you know,
Okay.
came back in my 30s, undiagnosed OCD. I was one of these
Right.
person that had to like touch things a certain way
Right.
or count things. I wasn't one of
No.
these teachers. No, but
Right.
it was very real. We'd go to
Right.
the mall when I was in 7th and 8th grade, and I'd be
Uh-huh.
like, my mother said, "Don't touch public things. You don't know that's all that dirty
Right.
stuff." And I'm thinking, but I couldn't leave. You know, I had to touch and I had to walk a certain
Right.
way. You know, I looked, you know, completely crazy.
Right.
And you know, I know it freaked out my
Right.
parents,
Right.
but it actually brought calm. And then my
Mhm.
therapist told me later on, he goes, "No one thought that was a little that needed to be kind of explored. You know, kind of explored. Why you didn't do it when you were 8 years old, but why are
Right.
you doing it now when you're 11?"
Right.
But so we're going back to this whole thing is we need to push people to look at the positive. We need to
Right.
look at the glass half full. We need to tell people, be grateful.
Right.
Understand why you're anxious, why you're depressed. Like
Uh-huh.
like I was telling you about this virus. So I think the virus played out very well here in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Now we've seen two different people, and I think you should be more kind of in the middle. We've had people that are really completely afraid of the virus. You know, I'm gonna wear a mask. I'm gonna stay at home. You know, completely isolated. And there's
Right.
other people that like, well, the virus doesn't exist. I mean, we had two people that I
Mhm.
think were not even really understanding the real science.
Right.
You know, it's an airborne disease.
Right.
Do things that you needed to do. You know, wear a mask, do some
Mhm.
social distancing. You know, wash your hands, but also
Right.
interact with your job, with people. You know, do things that would bring you a certain amount of life,
Right.
because a lot of people almost put their life on pause.
Mm.
But a lot of people, for the most part, they just look at the way how many people are just afraid of the vaccine.
Right.
And it's not even that they're not anti-vaxxers. I mean, that's a whole different group.
Right.
You have people that I thought they would say like, well, I don't know about the side effects.
Right.
That makes 0 sense. Side effects. My brother is chief of pathology at Texas Children's.
Okay.
So I get the inside scoop about viruses. He knows everything about infectious diseases. He
Right.
says, okay, well, he's baffled. Like, there's no such thing as side effects from a vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but he puts it this way. Okay, you really have two choices. If you get the virus, you potentially could get viral pneumonia.
Right.
And he says you do not want viral pneumonia.
Right.
If you get the vaccine,
Mhm.
and I've had the first dose,
Okay.
Moderna, and nothing happened to me. I
Right.
didn't know that. But I had a buddy who had it, who took the vaccine, and he had, he was lethargic. He
Right.
felt like didn't have it. He goes, that's a much better outcome
Mm-hmm.
to have one day kind of not feeling 100%
Right.
than actually doing pneumonia where you're completely sick and you may lose your taste buds. You may, end up in the hot, there's so many things. He goes, you don't want pneumonia. He goes, but that's where our mind goes. And so
Right.
many people are even confused about the vaccine. But like I'm saying again, our minds go to that negative.
Right.
So many people have now been confused about what is real, what is not.
Right.
that they don't. No one knows what to believe. Even if they really listen to people that have studied stuff, even our
But
mental scientists, and
it becomes something. It could become sometimes that it's just trust.
Well,
and
it is
that all it can
trust.
be, because like I said, if you haven't, everybody hasn't been exposed to certain things. Just like you say, your brother
Right.
is in the position he's in, so you're privy to certain things, right?
Right.
And so there's people that aren't. You know what I'm saying?
No,
so
and I
they're
agree.
not going to have insight. So it kind of goes with the counseling or therapist. Like some people don't have it available, like
Right.
because it just wasn't around them. So
Right.
if somebody just start talking about something and it's never been around them, it's kind of like a new salesman at your door for something that you never heard of before. And so people have to look at it, so it goes to this right here. People from up top, they have to look at things from an objective perspective as well. They want the people at the bottom, or whatever the thing is, they want people to look at them with an open mind. But how do you look at it with an open mind if you're not going to look at it from an open mind as far as from what they're saying? You know what I'm saying? And I was going to go to this next right here, what Tony M said. What do you say? Rejection. He said, I think that's true in a lot of cases when it comes to some things, but I grew up hearing no quite a bit, and then hearing it from chicks when trying to get the digits or a date. Or he said, I told my son, hold on, the next thing will pop up here. It's a continuation. I'll wait till it pops up. He said, I told my son at a young age, get used to hearing no. This goes back to the rejection thing. Rejection is part of life. Get comfortable with it. On the next one, need help dealing with anything, let me know. So I guess it's just advice he was giving his son as far as understanding rejection, because we were talking about one of the things that people most hate is rejection. So that's why they don't say.
But what Tony is saying is true, though. Rejection is part of life.
Right.
You go out for a sports team. People that get rejected at a certain level where they don't advance to the next level, or they get rejected, they don't get that A. They get a B or a C.
Right.
Or you go out on dates, you will hear no's, or you go for a job, we're not going to get all the jobs that we apply for,
right.
Or we, apply to certain colleges. We're not going to always say, even though you want to go in the military, they don't accept everybody. There could be certain reasons.
Right.
And I think what he's saying is rejection is part of life, and we can't let rejection or some type of defeat keep us down. We have to get back up.
Only you can stop yourself. That's what we said earlier. And then here, get comfortable with it. So, you can look at it at two different ways. A positive way as, yes, this is something you will endure in life. Or you can look at it as, well, you always hear no, so don't try.
Right.
And I think what we really need to focus on is just how can we implement therapy to people who don't have it, similar to just financial resources. Like, how can you give people that stability or the that they can? Yeah, I think that's the big $1 million question.
I know, and that's what I'm. And see, that's the whole thing I asked in the beginning. It's like, we have the training. You know what I'm saying? We have the schooling there. We have all the steps available, right? So if somebody comes with an open mind, you have the steps. You even added on to steps. You know what I'm saying? To really get people to kind of understand. And that's great. We have the place, right? Let's say we have the healing thing, because it really turns into the same thing as the vaccination. Right. I don't want to do it. No, it's a side effect, right? But like I said, it goes to the point of where people have a choice in something. But if they've never experienced it, they're just hearing about it, right? Because they've never had contact with. Nobody knew who the American World, or a lot of people didn't know the World Health Association. You know what I'm saying? It was American. It ain't American. It's the World Health Organization.
WHO.
Many people knew nothing about them ever. You know what I'm saying? Until this happened, right? And we, that's just true. They didn't know who Dr. Fauci was. They ain't never heard of this guy. You know what I'm saying? People in certain communities may have heard of him before, but a lot of people didn't hear him, right? So now they just see somebody come here talking about, hey, yeah, you need to do this. But okay, 1 minute, remember, you got to remember. Now, this is people with the vaccination. 1 minute they said, hey, no, the people need masks. A mask is not going to help you. Don't buy masks. Don't buy masks. This is what they said now on the stage. Then they come back and say, yeah, you need to wear masks. Everybody wear masks. because blah blah blah, right? Then they go back and say, now they're saying, okay, you got to really have a certain type of mask now. Double mask is not helping you at all. And this is what they're saying now. So now,
As more research is starting to come out,
Right,
they're learning more
but-
about the virus.
and they are now, say, from an intellectual standpoint or from an institutional standpoint, a lot of people understand that.
Mhm,
But there's still communities out here who don't understand that
mhm.
in that aspect. You know what I'm saying? And they're the ones, so they're looking at it from a standpoint like this right here. Listen, you done said this, you done said that, now you're saying this. They're not looking at the point of there's more research.
Mhm.
They're not looking at it from that perspective.
So then they're undereducated or ignorance. I mean,
I don't want to call them ignorant. I'm just saying maybe they don't get the information. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Because I can't say somebody that's in a rural area is ignorant. It's just
Mhm.
kind of like if they don't know, they don't know. If nobody bringing information out there,
right.
it's not. Can you believe that I've been places where people have never seen ice in the world now?
Mhm,
You know what I'm saying? They've never seen ice, and I showed them ice for the first time.
mhm.
Can you believe that? That's hard to believe for a lot of people.
Right.
what I'm saying?
Like God.
You know,
Is he real? Have you seen
Right.
him? What would you do if you
you know what I'm
seen
saying?
Yeah, but this is actually
No,
you
no, I'm
can
saying it's
prove,
actually-
but you can prove that ice
Right.
is real.
him? Yeah.
you feel what I'm saying?
Right.
You know, but before they seen the ice, they were like, they didn't even know ice existed. You know what I'm saying? They were, what is this thing? Ooh, it's cold in my hand. Like, what is this? They still have to figure out, like, do I trust it or not? You feel what I'm saying?
Mhm. So
And-
this is about trust then.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
that's what I said in the
Well,
beginning. It's
well,
I
it's
said
both, right.
trust. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lack of trust.
Between
Their belief in what people are actually presenting, because it goes back to, it's just kind of like somebody shows up to your door and they're a salesman. They're trying to sell you something that you never heard of before,
Mhm.
based off maybe where you're from. It could be that reason. I don't know.
Right.
It could be based off of they've seen a couple salespeople at the door selling the same thing.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? And they might knew somebody that something happened to them behind dealing with that. You know, and I'm just using that.
Right, yeah, but
know.
the thing about trust is usually a lot of times that people distrust things
Right.
is not only just maybe lack of knowledge or lack of information.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes it's because the experiences of being hurt
True.
and like I'm saying, the pain.
Right.
So I'm not going to trust something. You have to do a lot more to convince me
Right.
that it's true
Right.
than my initial response, let's say, to therapy or to
Mhm.
reach out or to understand emotions, because my environment, my
Right.
history,
Right.
my experience has been pain.
True. So true.
And it's and or they'll listen to their parents or their grandparents.
right.
And maybe because of the times, maybe because of the information that
Mhm.
things felt, came out different.
Right.
And so they feel a certain way. That's why, again, part of it is just almost like advertising.
Mm-hmm.
No one will remember an advertising the first time they see it,
Right.
unless it's like extremely memorable.
True.
For the most, that's why they say in the ad you have to see the same ad at least 6 times before
Mhm.
it even kind of registers into your brain.
Right.
The same thing with therapy or something else that actually can be very beneficial,
Right.
because a lot of people do want this unconditional love. Because a lot
True.
of times, most of us have experienced love, but
Mhm.
there's always something attached to it.
True.
There's some type of agenda.
Right.
Well, I want something.
Mm-hmm.
I may be some material good.
Right.
It may be sex. It may be, well, I'll love you if you don't like raise your voice.
Right.
And I'm gonna say,
Conditional stuff.
right, there's always some type of, and that's fortunately a lot of times, we've grown up with that.
Right.
That's the messages we've heard.
True.
And a lot of it comes that it's almost into our subconscious.
Mhm.
And I've talked about, I did a video on race
Okay.
after the George Floyd.
Uh-huh.
I did one on race, because saying that a lot of our ideas about racism
Mm-hmm.
are in our subconscious.
Mm.
That's why it never really actually moves the needle,
Right.
because no one even knows what to do, even from on certain things. And as we've been conditioned either
Right.
from the church or from art or from the media.
Right.
And it's the same thing with a lot of things, like with trust. A lot of times it's hard for people to keep an open mind. We all say that, oh, we're open,
True.
we're great, but in reality, most of us have a closed mind until we are almost forced to the level
Right.
of hitting rock bottom.
True.
And that's why I can say this now. Being an addict was the best thing that ever happened in my life.
Uh-huh.
I can look back and saying that was a gift from God.
Right.
most people say, but you lost a lot of money. You got drunk. You got jail. You got all this stuff. You had an STD. You had all this stuff.
Right.
Yes, that's all true. And I had, and I was one of them hard headed. So I didn't learn the lesson the first time.
Right.
I had to keep getting punched in the face.
Uh-huh.
That whole thing, that whole Mike Tyson quote. Everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the face.
Are you right about
Well,
that?
I could be like Rocky Balboa in the movies. Apollo Creed's punching me in the face time after time after time, and I keep coming back. I keep coming back for more punishment.
Right.
And thank God, in the end, I mean, we're not. This has nothing to do with Rocky or Apollo, but in the end, I finally, came up to the point where I felt so miserable,
Right,
that I said I need help. And that's how I was able to kind of see. And a lot of people that kind of change their life is because they've experienced such emotional pain or financial pain or physical pain that they're willing to have an open mind.
Right. And that's what I really love about Life is Wonderful. One of our quotes is empowering people through self-awareness, because if you're not aware of the emotions you're having yourself,
and bring the mic a little closer.
Okay, if you're not aware of the emotions you're going through yourself, then how you're not fully self-aware of what's going on around you, within you. And at that point, like Hugo said, like, I need help. And so eventually you come to a point where you will seek that help, or that help is around you. And then once you're vocal, closed mouths don't get fed. And then people are there to help you and support you, especially nowadays with the LGBTQ community and with DACA and just people who are different and born different. They will fight for themselves. They will stand up and tell you, like, no, this is not right. This is not fair. And they'll make a change and implement policies and go to the government, use their networks that they know, and actually change what's going on to society to make it more equals for people that are different like them or don't know how they can go through what they're going through and struggling with. And so I really love that about Life is Wonderful. Hugo's not afraid to be vulnerable, no matter who you are, what you do, and that's what's made him so successful.
And that's good. And that's good. And we need more transparent people out there like that. You know what I'm saying? Because that will pull people in. You know what I'm saying? And it's with anything. I think transparency is like the best thing ever. You know what I'm saying? I will follow a transparent person all day. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like, okay, I can trust them.
Right.
See, trust, I think, goes in hand in hand with everything. You know what I'm saying? And it's really kind of allowing people to kind of relax, you know what I'm saying, feel things out and understand it. But it goes to the same thing, like I said before, though. We have the programs.
Right.
We have the ability to get people through the steps and stuff like that. Is how do we get people to that point
to trust,
where they will go and trust? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because we have to take it to them no matter what. I mean, we can have doors open saying, hey, come on in here, we're going to take care of you. But people don't just run to places like that. People don't do that.
Well, here's the other thing is a lot of times, like within the 12-step programs, they talk about attraction rather than promotion.
Okay.
Which means if they can see someone, they can kind of almost be attracted to it. Sometimes it's like, well, man, he's got something that I want.
Right.
Because it's the same thing like in 12-step meetings. If you thought that if you walked into a 12-step meeting, like, people, a lot of people, and the reason why a lot of people don't want to give up their addictions is because they see it as something being taken away from them.
Right.
Instead of something as something as a gift. You are not powerless over your addiction. You become powerful over your emotions. And if you can actually no longer get triggered, like we were talking about, like triggered, like if someone brings up, like something that we got bullied from before, or something about your family or your background or something that, that you become, because if you become spiritually and emotionally strong, no one can kind of take that away from you. Because, when you said the word, Ladora said that word, success. What usually comes to mind when someone says the word success, it's usually some amount of material wealth. I have X amount. Success means I have a big house, or I have this fancy car, or I'm traveling, I'm traveling to this beautiful beach.
Right.
But what real success, I bring this back is I'm 54 years old.
Okay.
And whether it was my father's death, or a lot of other people. I've gone to a number of funerals probably in the last 10 years, much more so than I did in my 20s or 30s. What are the two things there was almost like two messages that I normally heard is how much that this person loved their family and loved their faith.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, should be the definition of success. The relationships that you have. There's a T-shirt that I actually need to get. I found this guy. I don't know where this guy is, but he has this T-shirt out there that says, "My net worth is my network."
Right.
And we've repeated that here in Hello Houston. And that is so true. Real success is the value of your network, your network. The people that you can call on, that you can talk to, on good days and bad days. I texted a lot of people saying, "Hey, I'm going to go live on,
Right.
I'm going to go live on YouTube tonight."
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And a lot of people were saying, "Oh, that's great for you. Yeah, I'll try to listen in, and figure, and hopefully get your subscribers, or at least more views." But
Right.
that's the thing is, and the other thing is, where we are spiritually and what you
Right.
believe in. I did a video on spirituality, kind of like talking about the difference between, spirituality and religion, and, like that whole thing. And I think a lot of people kind of frown upon, have been kind of running away from religion. And we see that in the numbers, how
Okay.
less people actually go into some type of organized religion is because each religion, and I say this is my own belief, is that each religion tries to tell you we have all the answers. And then says, well, if the Catholics saw all the answers, then what happened about the Jews? What about the Muslims? What about the Lutherans? What about the, of the thousand other,
Mhm.
all these are the Mormons, everyone has their own things, and they say like, well, we're going to get to salvation. Well, I assume everybody gets to salvation.
Right.
And who cares what you believe in? Who cares if you believe that and I believe that? As long as, to me, is the important thing is to believe in something.
Right.
But that, I think it goes back to that whole, all these concepts kind of work together. Whether we're talking about trust, whether we're talking about self-awareness, whether we're talking about open-minded, whether we're talking about hope and faith and all these other things, these messages, emotional courage, vulnerability, all these things, kind of about is that the more we almost become, like you said, more transparent,
Right.
you tend to enjoy life more because there's nothing to, because here's the thing,
There's
is
no,
the
there's
more
no
stuff,
restraint.
well,
There's
here's
no
the thing is
restrictions.
everything that I've said on my YouTube, you can't come back and say, "Oh, I can't believe you did this. I can't believe," like you're saying, like my brother said, "Oh, you're the urinator." Okay, yes, I've said it 10,000 times by now.
Right.
It's like it has zero effect on me.
True.
That's why when people do the 12 steps of recovery, they get to that point in step 4 and 5. Step 4 is where you kind of write down all the things that, kind of either cause you resentments or cause a certain
Right.
amount of pain. And step 5 is when you actually go before and you talk to somebody, as well as, you do it before God, which is very similar to almost many religions, some form of confession.
Right.
How relieved you are after it. You're not feeling burdened, because how many times, that's how I was, and how a lot of addicts describe it is those secrets that kind of keep you almost looking over your shoulder,
Right.
slouching your shoulders. You can't stand up straight. You
Right.
can't, just enjoy life and go, "Hey, look at people in the eye. This is who I am. Love me, don't love me."
Hey,
but guess what?
Whatever.
Guess what? No, I love myself.
Right.
It all starts with me. Because if I can't love myself, how can I expect Brian, Ladora, anybody else to love me?
True.
And it all becomes, and here's the other thing. Those are two words. What have you ever heard? Like, especially, have you heard this, like, like when it's not only like when gangs fight or other people, like in political parties or in some type of business disputes, they always throw out this word respect.
Right.
They disrespected me. Not like in the Asian culture, you got to save face. Well, first of all, you got to respect yourself. And I firmly believe that loving ourselves and respecting ourselves are two different concepts. Loving ourselves is obviously, treating ourselves right.
Right.
By putting things in our body, food, thought, the things we read, the things we watch, the people we hang out with. Are we around people that are much more positive, negative, that we're able to laugh with?
Right. Right.
And the other thing, respect when you actually stand up for whatever you believe in,
Right.
not what some type of religion, political party. One of my favorite lines is from the movie in the 1960s, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? And there's a famous scene in there where the white father, Spencer Tracy, is
Right.
talking to one of his best friends, the Monsignor. And the Monsignor starts laughing because, you know, it like within about the first, this is about 10 minutes before Spencer Tracy realizes that his white daughter is engaged with a black man.
Right.
And so he's trying to figure all this whole, you know, about this whole thing about, you know, about acceptability, you know, understanding it. And the Monsignor just starts laughing. And then Spencer Tracy goes, "What are you laughing about?" And he goes, "I love it when a liberal comes face to face with their morals."
Mm.
But that's the same thing with anybody. Well, whether
Right.
you're conservative or liberal,
Right.
whatever you claim to believe in, when you are actually at that point
Mm-hmm.
where you actually have to stand up, do you do it? And that's, I think, about respect. Do you
Right.
really stand up for who you believe in? You know, you can say that, oh, I don't, I'm against racism.
Right.
But do you stand up? You know, that the whole concept is are you a racist? Are you anti-racist? You know, all these other concepts have been now at least in the forefront having discussions about.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's the same thing about, you know, do you believe, do you believe in God? You know, do you believe in these, you know, certain things that, you know, that you value? You know, what is honesty to you? You know, and define it for yourself.
Right.
But I think to me, that's what respect is. And I think a lot of times we have to push people to say, how much do you really respect yourself?
Right.
How many times do you actually move the line in a relationship?
Uh-huh.
Well, I said I wanted this from my husband or wife or boyfriend or girlfriend, and then they do something differently. You know, they don't break up with them. They kind of stay. They put up with something. You know, and relationships are the greatest example of kind of pushing ourselves on how much we respect ourselves, what we're willing to tolerate, how well do we communicate. Because I think then once we do that, we
Mhm.
love ourselves and respect ourselves, we can get that. We can then love and respect others.
Mhm.
And like I was telling you over the phone earlier, is then and only then will we get more love and more respect
Right.
than we ever needed, wanted, or anticipated. And that's the beauty of the whole spiritual principles.
And it is, but it's just really getting to that point. You know what I'm saying?
I
Like
know.
I said, I mean, everything is good. Trust me, everything is good in these, you know what I'm saying, the programs, and that's perfect. You know what I'm saying? But like it still takes me to the point. How do we get people, you know what I'm saying, to not look at it, you know what I'm saying, as a bad thing, you know what I'm saying, or a weakness, so we can get them to that point. You know
I
what I'm
think
saying?
it starts with the government. I mean,
Right.
they're not as transparent as we, and obviously they can get very political as well as very
Uh-huh.
just like neutral. I mean,
Right.
what we see every day, the news, like
Okay.
how often do you watch the news? How are they being transparent, or do they seem malicious, or is it true
Mhm.
what they're saying, or is it because of this person that's running the house? And then just getting to that point, it's also up to just that individual to make a decision for themselves and to differentiate whether they want to believe it or not. And
Mhm.
I mean, there's people out there that will, like being transparent. As long as you're transparent, then you hope that they trust you, but at the end of the day, they still can be like, no, I still don't trust you,
Right.
even after being transparent.
Right. But I'm saying from the standpoint from people who probably need to talk to somebody,
Mhm.
need to talk to somebody. I'm
Yeah.
saying, how do we get that to them? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's your, like, Ladora? I'm coming to Ladora. I'm saying, Ladora, listen,
Right.
you know, there's some people over in this area
Mhm.
that really may need to talk to somebody.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You know, but they're conditioned, because no matter what, we're conditioned one way or another. You know what I'm saying? With our household condition us to think that, you know, taking the trash out after dinner is the right thing to do, or taking the trash out the next day and letting the trash sit in the house and smell, right? So we're conditioned.
Mhm.
So how do we get these people to understand, like, hey, seeing a therapist is not a weak thing.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like how like what are some things that we can do to do that? We already know we have the
Assessment
facilities.
evaluation.
But how do we even get to assess them?
I
They
think
won't
just
come.
serving the community, going out there, seeing who needs the help,
Right.
and figuring out what their problem is, and then just taking them through the steps and through the process.
Right. So, and that's one of the keys I said in the beginning, because you asked me a question, you know what I'm saying? What I want to do, I said, is really getting out in the community.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And we have to show, because that has to build the trust. Everything that you talked about,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying? It all revolves around trust. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? You're in a relationship. Your relationship is about trust. You know what I'm saying? Your business partnerships, your business relationships, it's all about trust.
Right.
And it's a building process. You know what I'm saying? And so we have to show something. Like you said, we have to make something attractive. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
To bring the people to what we're trying to do. But my thing is, I see so many business owners, right? People getting into business, and they probably have so many different traumas within them for whatever reason, and they have able to kind of push it back for so long, right? And they're about to crack.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? But nobody would ever know that, because one, they're not going to let that vulnerability out. You know, so let somebody know, because they don't want to be seen as weak. You know, it's got to figure most people don't want to deal with a weak
I don't
business
necessarily
person.
think it's just weak about being weak. It could be several different factors.
Oh no, I agree with that. It
Yeah.
could be, but I'm just saying, just from a, you know, a lot of African American males see it as being weak. You know what I'm saying? They see other ways too, but one of the
Right.
main things, if they deal with another male in business or whatever, they're like, what, man, please.
But then I guess then
Pride
it
and
depends. Like I'm
ego.
saying, it's most males
Right.
see it as a weakness. But then I think that if you have more African American males, then saying it's not weak, it's a sign of strength.
Right.
And as well as other nationalities or races saying like, no, look at me. Like I said before, it's more of an attraction.
Right.
I'm telling you, it works.
Right.
If you can't see the smile on my face, if you
Right.
can't see the joy that I have every morning
Right.
because I've implemented the things, most of it's through trial and error. Like
True.
I said,
True.
I've banged my head
True.
on the wall enough times and go, okay,
Right.
let me try something different. And then when the result comes out, something kind of positive,
Uh-huh.
it's like, wow. And that's the thing that, you know, we talk about like in recovery, you know, we celebrate any types of successes. You go
Right.
30 days without doing an addiction,
Uh-huh.
we're going to give you a chip. We're going to clap and say, good job.
True.
You know, there's other things that, you know, people, you can always, you know, treat yourself. You know, if you do something positive, let's say your whole goal was to kind of get better shape, you know, wanted to, you know, like lower your numbers, let's say your cholesterol level, your high blood pressure, and you lower the numbers, you can like a nice meal, you know, nice piece of clothing or something, you know, that you kind of treat yourself. Sometimes we just have to kind of treat ourselves better and look at it, and we have to keep pushing it, you know. And like you could ask the question to people who say, well, I don't trust therapy. I think I go, well, how's your life working?
Right.
Ask the question, because sometimes, you know, they can tell you, well, I don't think therapy works.
Right.
I go, okay, well, how is your life working right now?
Well, they know.
Are you what?
They know how their life is working.
Exactly. But then you should say then, okay, well, why don't you at least have an open mind?
Right.
Which
You
goes to what
see what
V.
V. Craig
Yeah, I
said.
was just going to say, you can only offer people the water, in parentheses, counseling, which is good for them, but you can't make them drink or seek help. I've heard that all the time.
Right.
So
But
you can
that's
take the horse to the water, but you can't make them drink it.
right. But that's life.
Yeah.
Like, remember, I listened to some of your other podcasts.
Right.
Whether it was the night before with Jay and Tiffany, or we're talking with Andy, you know, talking about all the things, and you know, they have the blueprints.
Right.
You know, they can tell you. Tiffany can talk about government conduct. Andy can talk about wealth. You know, all this stuff. And like a lot of people would say, well, I just want to have a successful business, or like people will say, well, I want, you know, I'm not talking about what on your podcast, but people will say is, I just want $1 million. Well, that doesn't mean anything.
Right.
And
you know, the
Or
thing
keep
is,
it, or
right, but
keep
that's
it.
the whole thing is so look at all your different, I mean, so a lot of your guests you brought in talking about all types of subjects. And one, the sex appeal coach, talking about how to bring both males and females.
Right.
All these things work together.
True.
Having a high credit score is what everybody wants.
True.
Having sex appeal is what everybody wants. Having, whether they're government contracts, big corporation contracts, or other multiple businesses like the way Jay has, or a lot of the things, you know, certain things that Anita talks about, like within leadership, everyone wants to be a leader.
Right.
Everyone wants these things, and I realize, okay, it takes work. You can't, I can tell people 1,000 reasons why recovery works, and I can show you how it worked in my life.
Right.
And I can say, but it caused a lot of work.
True. But
a lot of blood and
a
sweat
lot
and
of
tears.
people don't want to work.
Right.
Right.
And you've seen that
And
in the
that becomes it,
military.
yeah.
Right. So you can take a lot, you can show people what to
Right.
do.
Right.
But in the end, I'm only responsible for me.
True.
And what did I tell you earlier? Yours is the only opinion that really matters.
Yours.
Well, yours, and if you're not paying my bills and you're not
Mhm.
sleeping in my bed,
Right.
your opinion really doesn't matter. But we have so many people that are either waiting on that affirmation, validation, because that is a human condition. No, we do want that.
That'd be killing
And
me
until
right there,
until we can do our own
Right.
self-soothing,
right.
and it takes unfortunately, it takes a
long
lot of
time.
work
Some-
to understand how to
Mhm.
self-soothe ourselves.
Right.
There was a famous movie about this autistic person, Temple Grandin.
Mhm.
You know, she was a rancher. I think she's still alive. And, you know, she was autistic. And, you know,
Right.
she invented a machine almost like to hug. It was almost like this self-hugging machine. I recommend, I push people to watch this type of movie or read the story about it.
Mhm.
And, you know, she, you know, people, you know, counted her out. You know,
Right.
obviously, you know, she can't do much because she's autistic. You know, she
Right.
had a, you know, kind of what would be considered, I guess, you know, on the spectrum, you know, very slight. But she
Mhm.
still had what's considered a mental disorder.
Right.
But, you know, that whole thing about self-soothing, but she figured out how to self-soothe herself,
Right.
which in turn then enabled her to invent a machine on how to soothe cattle right before they were going
Be
to
slaughtered.
the being slaughtered.
Right.
You know, there's so many things that people don't realize. And so it goes back to, you know, this whole thing is look, I can keep showing you,
Uh-huh.
but if you don't want to, you know, and I don't know why some people have a stronger ethic.
Mhm.
And I can tell you, I mean, I had the gift because my father had a strong work ethic.
Right.
So I learned, you know, like I said, you know, I learned a couple things. The greatest lessons I learned from my parents, from my mother, was I learned how to pray
Mhm.
and kneel to show humility
Right.
and not mix those words. Because I also heard that on, and I've heard this in 12-step rooms. People don't understand the word be humble.
Mhm.
You know, humble like Gandhi, humble like Mother Teresa, humble
Mhm.
like MLK,
Right.
not humiliation.
Mhm.
But so many people think that humble equals humiliation. No, no one wants to be humiliated.
Right.
Humiliation is something to avoid.
True.
Being humble is something that we should strive for.
Right.
Don't mix up the words. Just
Well,
like
so
saying
many people have different definitions because maybe the way they were taught that word, you know what I'm saying, or where they
correct.
experienced it. You know what I'm
Correct.
saying?
And the way the
You know,
religion and
right.
also religions have
Definitely.
used that word
In so
in
many
kind
different
of
facets. It's
that
just
have kind of almost
people don't know which way. So you do have to have the dynamic conversation. So one, we
Right.
can have an understanding, okay, what we're going to agree with, you know what I'm saying, what we're going to say being humble is.
Can I ask a question?
You can always ask questions. Talk to me.
So I was saying the military culture, you said it was like a requirement to go to therapy because they had classes and stuff, correct?
Was that?
In the military
Wait,
culture?
No,
How?
I'm not saying it was a requirement. I'm saying the classes.
Right.
So you can understand what it was. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And so
They can't force you to go to anything.
And
you
if
know.
you didn't do what your superior said, then what was done?
That's
Was there
just-
a
that's-
consequence or?
I mean, it's counseling. It's just like anything.
Mhm.
You know, if you work at a job and you
Right.
don't do something, that's a counselor. They write you up. So it's no
Right.
different than just society.
And so did you trust therapy or the classes that they were talking? Did you trust the classes you were taking that talked about what therapy was?
Yeah, trusting enough for to go or the soldiers to go. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
But remember, that's in a bubble.
Yeah, but then how was it received in the military? Did a lot of people still mistrust the therapy? Because, you know, you see that a lot of times when they,
Right.
especially in movies, especially when they talk about law enforcement. Oh, you got to go see the
Well,
doc.
I
like they said.
don't think however they were before they came in, they had the same view. You know, their view didn't change. They were probably educated more.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
Until they
I-
probably had some type of
Right, until they had an
experience that maybe
experience.
changed them.
There
Like
you-
we talked about,
there
some
you
type
go.
of pain or
There
some
you go.
type
So
of
however-
near-death experience.
right. So however they felt coming in, you know what I'm saying? It didn't make them, oh yeah, it didn't. I'm not saying it did that. However they felt, they felt like they didn't trust that type of thing
Mhm.
before.
How
the
would
same
you
way.
feel if they didn't? If your friend came to you and said, "Hey, I don't trust this therapy I'm taking about this therapy," would you encourage them that?
So are you
no,
talking about
should?
a class or you talking about if they
Well, that's
actually
what I'm
had
trying
an
to
appointment?
understand. That's what I'm trying to understand. You say you were to us and
Right.
that
Well, it's
class. Okay.
education,
Okay.
right?
Right.
So just like continuing education classes,
Mhm.
seed credit.
Right.
have an X amount of classes talking about, different things. You know
A
what I'm saying?
requirement. Yeah.
Right.
They forced you. Well,
Well,
not
it's
I want
not
to say
a- it's
forced,
not
but it
forced.
was a requirement. If you didn't meet this requirement, there was a consequence.
No, they're not classes like that. So you think in class like you go to class.
No, I'm not. Okay.
No, well, I'm trying to understand what you're saying.
Mhm.
Because you're saying like you don't meet it's
There-
right.
There's a condition. Every quarter,
There's
they tell you have to make. I guess that's what you were gonna continue to elaborate
right.
on.
So okay, just kind of like humble, right? Classes and classes. Okay, there's two different things, right?
Mhm.
So classes, what I'm talking about is, there are certain training classes that you have, just training classes. So it's a training class. It's not a class like, oh, you're gonna get an A, or if you fail it, if you
No,
don't
I'm not-
show up.
right.
So it's not like that. So there's no
But did you have
repercussion.
to go?
There's not a repercussion in it. You know what I'm saying? You
But
know,
did you have to go to those training classes?
yeah, you're gonna always go. You might, if you didn't
Did
make
you
that.
have to go?
Yeah, I just said you're gonna
Okay.
always go because
Right.
it's just one of the.
Yeah. So, you're talking about requirements and training classes. So, I
Mhm.
mean, you can go and
But that's what I said. I said so. However, when if your view was a certain way, that was your view. You know what I'm saying? Most of the time, it was just their view.
Well, it's like anything.
You can get training, but it doesn't mean that you believe what you train. When you train, you know what I'm saying?
right, you're just doing it because it's a requirement. They're making you do it. And
Well, hell, when I went to college, guess what? I didn't want to be in all those lectures. Guess what I had to do?
you did it.
I went in the lecture.
Right.
Whether I agree with the lecture or not, I went to
Mhm.
the lecture and I got my grade.
Yeah.
I went to the next class, the next semester. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah.
So it just becomes like that. You know what
ending,
I'm
never
saying?
ending.
But in the
cycle.
end, it's kind of
Right.
a good thing because at least
Yeah.
the more education
And
you
that's the-
have,
and
the
that's the
better
key.
opportunity.
Key is what you have to look at.
Yeah.
The education, you know what I'm saying? So we know you've had the education. And so that's
The
why
exposure.
I say I think it's great job in it because one, they make it already. So we
Right.
want to make sure that you have access to this. You know what I'm saying? And that you have it and you continue to have it throughout your career.
Right.
It's just constant. It's
Yeah.
throughout your
But
career.
it doesn't the same thing about parenting because a lot of times you don't know if child is really listening.
True.
It's a message, but at least you have that exposure, especially
Right.
you have that exposure maybe sometime further down the line when someone needs therapy. And
Right.
hey, you know what? This might be helpful.
Did you do everything your parents said coming up?
No.
Did you do everything your parents said coming up?
Nope.
But they probably always try to tell you to do the right thing. You know what I'm saying?
In
so
their
so
eyes,
in,
right.
in their eyes, right? So
Doing
it-
what's best for their child.
right.
Yeah. And I'm also curious to see who do you think lacks
Come to the mic.
who do you
Yeah.
think lacks exposing people?
What you mean? In what way?
So you say that we fail to expose, and maybe it's because of their environment, maybe it's because they just don't know, but whose job is that?
Oh, I didn't say we failed doing it. I
Mhm.
said no, we failed doing it. I
Right.
said, how do we, you know what I'm saying? How do we do that?
Right.
How do we go out? You know what I'm saying? I asked you, what do we do?
Right.
And you say, well, you don't know. Right?
As far
Remember?
as teaching
No, I'm saying is as far as people I want people to go to therapy. Okay. So I'm
Right.
I'm on the
Obviously.
team. Okay. I
Right.
wouldn't even be having this podcast if I didn't
Yeah.
believe any of this, right?
Mhm.
So my thing is I want to figure out, you know what I'm saying? Like what is it that's not happening? You know what I'm saying? Or and it's nobody's job. You know what I'm saying? People are grown. It's nobody's job to go do it and none of this stuff. This is just somebody who cares about people
Mhm.
who's trying to figure out like, yo, you know what I'm saying? To make people get away from this stereotype that people cannot hope. You know what I'm saying?
And can you give a time that you've done that?
What you mean?
Exactly what you just said about how can we do a better job of.
I only
teaching
asked you that
nobody's
because
job?
I only asked you like this because I want you to restate it so people who listening they can understand what you're exactly asking
Mhm.
because they can't see you. I can see you.
Right.
You know,
I'm asking if you can give an example of a time that you've seeked in regards to can we do a better job of educating people that don't know and to allow them to get them to trust
okay, so
like the podcast and talking and broadcasting how do you get involved with the community that you feel is lacking this need that you're describing as far as like therapy and getting help and trust?
I go down to the communities myself personally, like I was talking about earlier. One of the things I do, period, no matter where I'm at, I go into the community. You know what I'm saying? I'm a community person, right? So I'm going in and I'm talking to people, just conversation. You go to the basketball courts, you know what I'm saying? You talk to people, you go to the neighborhoods, you clean their neighborhoods up, you know what I'm saying? In these areas. And you just chat and you talk to people, you know what I'm saying? Trying to see what your day, what's some things you think, what's some things you do, you know what I'm saying? Stuff like that, just to kind of get an understanding of what people.
And what's the next step? So you talk about it. Hey, what do you do? What's going on? What's the next step?
Get them involved with different programs.
Okay. What kind of programs do you have to get them involved?
You know, we got stuff with my fraternity. I mean, I don't put that business out on this outlet right here. You know what I'm saying? So get them involved. There's different program I have, a program I'm part of, you know what I'm saying, and stuff like that.
You give them a brochure. Like you said, I want it to give me something, you know. I'm just challenging you. This is a great conversation that I think.
And I accept reasons why I can't say that for certain things, you know what I'm saying? So you just got to read between the lines on that.
Okay.
On this spectrum of right here. You know what I'm saying? Now, I have to cut off. I can go straight to you and tell you. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, there we go.
You know what I'm saying? You know.
So it's like a secret.
No, it's not a secret. It's not a secret. Not at all. No, it's not a secret. You know what I'm saying? But so now I'll take it back to you. I challenge you. What are you doing?
As far as, well, this is my, first time being exposed to this kind of conversation. So I definitely need a little bit of time to think about what I've personally done in regards
to. What do you want to do? Because whatever it is I'm doing, I want to take you. I want to take you out in the community, so you can understand. You know what I'm saying? That's what I would like to do.
You want to take me to the communities that are
the different communities
struggling with. Okay.
Right. You know what I'm saying? So that way we can both be a help to the whole thing. You know what I'm saying? And then we both can help figure it out.
That's the plan, to gather people as resources to the communities.
Well, I mean, it's not just one. You know what I'm saying? There's multiple things out here. You know what I'm saying? You know, so we just really want to get people aware. You know what I'm saying? That's awareness. You know what I'm saying? Building trust. You know what I'm saying? And you have to be the first place to start. You know what I'm saying? Because when you grabbing kids or grabbing people to say, hey, blah, blah, can't do that. You know what I'm saying? What, Ladara? Talk to me, Ladara.
No, I think that's, true. I mean, you just got to just keep pushing.
Right.
And realize that people get overwhelmed, because otherwise, we do feel we can do.
Right.
And usually we can do a lot, but we also have to realize you can't save everybody.
Yep. I mean, they said it right there. You leave them in the water.
I think there's another question from Tony.
Yeah. What do you say?
I think we got to be more proactive and not just watch and see. Like, I got a homeboy that's going through something. I recognize something isn't right. I got a lead. Yeah, very. I got to lead them to help and follow up. Yeah. So he's taking the lead and following up on what his homeboy is going through. So
he's it's contact. He's going directly to it. You know what I'm saying? And that's some of the things we have to do. We have to get out there and notice it. I'm sure somebody else is around this guy as well, but they're not taking the proactive step to kind of just even trying to find out.
He's trying to lead him into some type of solution.
And so evidently he see him going through something. So there must be a distrust somewhere, right? And so you get in there to kind of see what's going on with him. So he can build a trust with him, so he can probably tell him what's going on. He possibly can get him some help.
Well, sometimes some people don't see the value. They think it's a waste of money. They say, I can figure this out myself.
Right.
Like I always try to say is a therapist is like a coach.
Mm-hmm.
You try to learn how to play basketball, football, any type of sport.
Right.
You're going to make much more headway with a coach. Someone kind of teaching you, I know, do it this way. No, you're leaning the right way. No, if you hold, this is how you box out. This is how you set a pick. This is how you pass the ball. Same thing is this is how you process an emotion. You don't allow a person to say, some people think that magically over time heals, or somehow you both process some type of event. No, it doesn't happen that way.
Right.
Time is helpful, but you could take a lifetime. People are still resentful. Many times, I have seen in my own family that someone is not talking to this other person.
Right.
There's some type of ridiculous feud, or something was said. We all say things that we regret.
Right.
But how are you gonna? And here's the thing about this whole called these feuds. Usually, you're the one you're not punishing the other person. You're punishing yourself because you keep it all inside.
Right.
Like they say is do you know how much more energy it takes to have a frown than a smile?
Right.
Life's a lot easier when you smile.
True.
Life's a lot easier when you're honest and people know who you are than when you're keeping everything bottled up inside you and you have all this tension. And that tension, people don't realize, to me, is there's all types of toxins in our world.
Right.
We can talk about, there's toxins that come from different plastics that we have in every facet of our lives. There's all types of resins, but there's also other toxins that, that are in our foods.
Right.
That might be in our water. But there's also those emotional toxins that we don't let go and don't realize is tension elevating our high blood.
Right.
Be causing us this not even enjoying our life, our kid, one. All this other stuff. We tend to almost exaggerate or almost compound certain illnesses that we have.
Right.
There's a lot of studies that are done. The people that actually have a more optimistic outlook or believe in prayer, believe in something outside themselves, will heal from any type of physical injury or emotional injury that much faster.
And I definitely believe that.
Right.
I 100% believe
I
that.
do too.
I
do too, because through experience.
Right.
And I've watched people suffer unnecessarily. And that's what we just got to keep just sharing different experiences.
True.
I think that's what you're trying to do. Like when you go out to community, and that's what I, try to always share every time, whether I'm in Clubhouse, whether I'm in a 12-step meeting, whether I'm with my family or friends, people can just see how my outlook is. And if they've known me long enough, they'll see that he doesn't approach life the same way that he did before.
Definitely. It's definitely a different view. Just to reiterate what you said as far as people who heal faster, or, I'm going to ask you, do you think it comes from also probably in a negative aspect? Because they really are like, hey, no, I'm about to heal. I'm not this injury long, or they don't really get sick because they do. It's like something like that. There's people maybe 3 times a year.
Well, it comes back to everything.
Right.
We've been talking about, we don't talk enough, a lot about people have the virus, how many people have died from the virus. How many times do you hear the talk about how to improve your immune system?
Right.
Because with a stronger immune system, you are going to recover.
True.
And all those people are saying, well, reason why there's a lot of more alcohol sales, because, bars and restaurants are shut down.
Right.
But when people didn't add one and one together, imbibe lowers your immune system, which almost made you more vulnerable for the virus.
Right.
Kill the virus. There were some people saying, well, heat will kill the virus. Everyone had all these kind of like these type. But everyone needs to talk about how to improve the immune system. Like you're saying, is if people feel more loved,
right,
you are going to have the thing early on, and they proved that this, one of the industries that had the least demand was gyms, especially lifting. You're lifting, your body is almost in this way. It's not maybe, the things that they probably should have cut down. If people doing some type of aerobics or spin class, because you breathing out in a
Right.
small contained group.
Right.
But if you're in a big gym and there you just have, maybe 50 people, you have ceilings that go up to about 30 feet.
Mhm.
You do not contact. And people nowadays, I still see them. I go to
Right.
2 gyms. I go to one gym in the 3rd ward. I go, I go to a regular kind of national chain gym.
Okay.
And people are still meticulously wiping down the machines. Now I
Mm.
understand wipe down the machine if you've been sweating,
Right.
but you're not going to get the virus because I use the bench press.
Mm. But it's lack of knowledge.
No, it's like
It's-
what
it's-
I'm saying is,
you
but
know,
what
you
I'm
agree?
saying is though, but any type of exercise, walking, swimming,
Mhm.
walking your dog, all that
Right.
stuff, it improves your immune system, makes you
Right.
stronger. Same thing like what we were talking about with the belief.
Mhm.
If you believe in something, you're much more optimistic.
Right.
You have less chance. Doesn't mean that you will not get the virus,
Mhm.
but you always want to put the numbers in your favor.
Definitely.
That's what I'm saying is so do things that improve you, and especially the other things is eat right,
Right.
eat more fresh, eat things that that are proven that will help improve your immune system.
Right.
There's a list of different foods that we can constantly eat. A lot of people, I don't know if you see this a lot. People pushing, eat some sea moss. But
Mhm.
a lot of things before, like eat more fruits, eat more
Right.
garlic, eat more hot, pepper, all that stuff.
Right.
Introduce all that into your diet.
Right.
Don't
But
introduce
like you
foods
said,
as
it's not promoted.
No, it's
You know
not
what I'm
that,
saying?
but they
You know.
should, and it doesn't matter if you're watching
Right.
CNN or Fox.
Right.
So the party you're fully affiliated with,
True.
neither really trying to help the public.
Maybe it's by design.
Well, it is right because they don't really care. Right, that's my whole point. It's like it doesn't matter you're voting
You know,
Democrat,
hey,
Republican.
hey,
Things
shut the
certain
gyms
things
down,
don't
right?
change. Yeah,
Shut the gyms down. Shut them
Right.
down, right?
right. Shut down the gym.
Yeah. Okay. Generally, people are more upbeat
Right.
and positively going. Most people don't go to the
I
gym to
think,
be
and
negative.
also,
I'm
and I
gonna
think
go
it
lift these weights.
but it also activates your immune system.
Right.
It activates your body, so your immune system is actually almost
Right.
have this force field about you.
I can tell
So
you this right here. Many of the army bases, they, for a minute they kind of slowed up, but now they're back pushing to what it was. You know what I'm saying? Like PT every morning. Let's go. Let's exercise. And because one that really does kind of get you going in the morning, and I just know this based off my experience. You get up and you go run 10 miles and you do what you do, and you have to have that thing in you. You know what I'm saying? And it made you feel better. It made me feel better. And you just kind of stay on that high. You don't really have those sicknesses and all this. So you keep it going. People need to know what resources are available to them. And exactly,
Resources are available to them.
right.
Interpret it 2 ways. There's, and read that question and
Mhm.
what are the free resources? What are the resources that cost a certain, that. And I think you have to use both.
Are therapists free?
Well, they kind of depends.
Right.
It depend. It also depends on what type of therapist you see. You
Right.
see a psychologist.
Mhm.
Psychologist. So that you also have people that are affiliated with it,
Right.
counselors,
Mm.
and a lot of them, depending on income, they'll have a sliding scales.
But
They may
is
charge
it
you.
usually a cost associated?
Yeah, they're usually
I'm
a
just asking,
cost,
you know what
right?
I'm saying?
Right, but there's like
know,
anything.
Right.
I mean, there's
Yeah.
usually a cost associated with a trainer.
True.
There's usually, if you want to learn a new
Hmm.
career path,
Right.
there's usually a cost education.
Right.
Therapy is no different than any other education, whether you're going to a community college, whether you're going to a university, or whether you're just doing some type of leisure learning.
Right.
There's always a cost.
Right.
There's certain things that should be free, and that's the whole reason behind like my business. That's why a lot of videos for free. Now I'm
Uh-huh.
also, and I think a good business model is providing a certain amount of information for the
Uh-huh.
public good
Right.
that is free. Reasons, that we all need money to survive. Talent, it costs money.
True.
We do something, we put in a lot of effort. I put a lot of effort. Me and Ladora have put in hours into those videos.
Right.
And they've come out great. I mean, I love sharing my knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And because I have a lot of enthusiasm for
Right,
recovery. I have a lot of enthusiasm for these topics.
Right.
And Ladora believes in the message, and she just adds her twist and adds all these amazing graphics. She kind of
Mhm.
amazes me, puts music. You know, she
Right.
came up with the logo.
Go
You
ahead,
know, I
girl.
came up with the tagline. You know, together we work together. I mean, I love
Yeah.
I love how she came up. You know, how the wonderful's big, bold, yellow, and I
Right.
came up the whole thing about empowering people through self-awareness.
Right.
And you know, we try to push out the message. But you know, but I think all people,
Mm-hmm.
all industries, you know, give out like most of your guests so far on your
Right.
podcast.
Yeah.
They've shared a lot of wonderful information for
Mhm.
free.
Right.
People need to introduce it. And they also still have businesses, and they still want people to
Right.
go to their conference or their
Mhm.
course or
Right.
certain things because you know that's what they they have a specialty.
Right.
So I think when it says what resources are available to them, well, it depends on what resources you're looking for. And I think take advantage of both. I took advantage of both.
Right.
There were certain things that were free that I took advantage of, or very cheap, like you can go to a
Right.
12-step meeting for $1 or
Mhm.
$2. As well as I was paying a therapist,
Right.
it kind of changed over the years. I was paying anywhere from $140 to $195 a session.
Right.
And luckily I had the ability to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I also knew that was money well worth it because
Right.
I was at level 0
Mm-hmm.
when it came to emotions. I was in my early 30s,
Right.
and I was emotionally an 8-year-old,
Mm.
or maybe even emotionally a 13-year-old when the first time I really got drunk and high.
Right. Mm-mm-mm.
But I had to catch up.
Right.
No one wants. Ask any woman. We can ask Ladora, but ask any woman if they want to date a man who's 31, but he's emotionally 13. There's this quote that I heard: "Growing old is mandatory. Growing up is optional."
True.
So Ladora, would you want to date a man who's physically 31 and emotionally 13?
I mean, my first response would just be no.
Exactly.
I mean,
You don't have to go
no,
anymore.
exactly.
You just have to just stop there. No, you don't have to
Right.
explain. But that's what I'm saying is, and the same
Right.
thing with men. I mean, no one wants to date a woman who has a lot of trauma. A lot of people, unfortunately, get into relationships. Relationships aren't designed. It's the same thing as
to do that.
And how many
at
times
all.
have you heard that? Brian? How many times have you heard this? That if we have a child together, it's going to
Mhm.
save the marriage.
I heard people say that.
And does it work?
I don't think it's
Exactly.
worked ever.
Right. A
It
child
probably
never.
brings
Hey,
more-
like right. If
It's
two
gonna
people,
bring some stuff into the relationship.
Right,
That's what
more.
it's gonna do.
it'll probably bring
Lord,
more
shoot.
tension.
Right.
There'll be more things of discussion that
Right.
probably lead into fights. But that's what I'm saying is
Mhm.
a relationship can't heal you. A child cannot heal a relationship.
And another
You're
person can't help
responsible,
you.
right? You're
That's just
responsible
what it
because it's
is.
you.
Right.
You're only one. Ultimately, you're responsible for
I mean,
your life.
it goes back to the inner self and with everything. Being resilient. Once again, that's an inner thing. That's something that one you can have classes on it all day. You know what I'm saying? You can learn the steps and all these things to become resilient. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, you have to have acceptance within yourself that you do it. And I'll say it's one of those things also where if people, without saying about a bad thing, but is really not caring how a person feels about you. You know what I'm saying? In the sense of I'm not gonna let their belief or their thought upset me. I'm not gonna let their belief or their thought about me make me react in any kind of way. You know what I'm saying? Because I value what I feel about myself more than somebody else. You know what I'm saying? And I think if people, well, I ain't gonna say people, if I continue to live that way, how about that? It's worked for me and it works for me because one is it makes you have self-control. You know what I'm saying? What moments where a person could blow up, you know what I'm saying? And if you had the control, okay, that's all good. I don't care how they feel. That's good. And you have no adverse reaction to them at all. And I just think it's just growing.
Right.
It's growing up. You know what I'm saying? And we all have to go through our phase in life. It's just the way it works. You know what I'm saying? Certain things are gonna be a little more hot than others. But once we kind of get to that point, it's just kind of like, hey, let's go. Let's make the thing happen. Boom, I got hit. Okay, I'm back up now. Let's go. Boom, I got hit again. Okay, boom, let's go. Right?
Right.
And that's what helps you get in the helicopter again, night after night after night after night, and go over the wall. You know what I'm saying? Because what happened yesterday, okay, it happened yesterday, but I'm back today. I got another day, so let's go make it happen. Right. And that's it. Being resilient. But at the same time, how do we get people to understand that getting therapy is not a bad thing?
Well, I think just keep repeating the message. Like I
That's
said,
it.
it's
And
like
you're right.
it's like advertising.
If
You
you-
got to keep
if you-
telling people therapy is actually a plus, not a
Right.
minus.
And if you heard me last night, I don't know if you looked at the lesson last night when I was talking to a young lady, I said, you know what? I've been begging and begging and begging people, like business people, to kind of understand business, right?
Right.
I said, and guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna continue to keep begging and begging and begging and begging. You know what I'm saying? And when I'm saying begging, I'm not saying begging somebody to do something, but
No, I
I'm
know
gonna
what you're
keep
saying.
pushing the
Right.
message.
I do.
Pushing the message. That's what I'm gonna keep doing. You know what
Well,
I'm
as
saying?
I say,
Because it's the right thing to do.
someone, I know I come on at times. I come
Mhm.
on times strong.
Right.
I come on and I say because I believe in the message,
Right.
and I'll keep pushing. I mean, I tell my family, my family, would be. I've told this story to a lot of people that are close, to me, like are in recovery.
Right.
6 months, I was not drinking. They would
Okay.
ask me, "Do you want to drink?" I
Mhm.
could understand, of course, even though that was a trigger. Those first 18 months,
Right, rough.
everything triggered me.
Okay.
5 years in, it could have been my brother, it could be my cousin, it could be my dad. 15 years. I mean, I still would get questions. That shows a lot of people just don't even listen.
Right.
But when I talk about trying to improve your emotional self,
Mm-hmm.
is because I know the results. I also
Right.
see it the way some other professionals or other people push it,
Right.
because it's proven. I have yet to see a book that says remain closed off
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to get the most out of life.
Mm.
You always hear about books, trying to talk about open up, do this,
Right.
be more emotional, be more vulnerable,
Right.
but you never hear you never hear books. So if books aren't teaching you to remain closed off, or books aren't teaching you to not seek therapy
Right.
and give you the reasons. Because if your only reason, because that's not really a real reason, I don't go to therapy because I'm going to be perceived as weak.
Right.
That's not a real reason. Now, if you can say, I don't go to therapy because it didn't work for me. We all had experiences.
Right.
There's always either coaches that are ineffective, teachers that are ineffective, parents that are ineffective,
Right.
Religious people that are ineffective. Yes. And that's unfortunate because it kind of breaks that trust that we were so delicate to build.
Right.
And so but you got to keep encouraging people. Like, having a bad experience, just like, a lot of people will swear off love. A lot of people,
True.
get in a divorce and go, I'm never going to love again. And then 2 years later, they're getting
They're
married.
right back in there.
Yeah, they're right there.
Right.
Because, there's a
Emotional
lot
decision. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Emotional thought, rather.
right. I think in the, in really almost like in the fire,
Right.
you're like, ooh, I don't want to get back into a
True.
marriage. I may love someone, I didn't want to marry him.
Mm.
Or I don't know about therapy. Unfortunately, it's such a kind of almost a delicate balance. Is you don't want anybody to have a negative experience, but sometimes they do. But for the most part, most people's experiences with therapy is positive.
Right.
So, or it's at least something that helps them process whatever they're going through. Because there's a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of people have dealt with being bullied, have some type of abuse.
True.
And abuse comes in the three forms, the physical, the sexual, and the emotional.
Right.
And, they all can be very devastating. It's the same thing you hear a lot of people about, I would never take any of you back from like cheating. And I always say, the physical cheating, to me, this is my own opinion, emotional cheating is much more devastating to a relationship than someone that, slept with someone one time.
Right.
Obviously, if someone's, multiple partners going on for 2 years, I mean, that becomes, the physical, you tend to like, well, okay, that's it. But the emotional part, just like we're talking about emotion.
True.
Emotional cheating. But how many times have you heard people constantly say, well, I would end a marriage, I would end a relationship if someone actually cheated?
Right. Definitely more times than the other.
Than the emotion.
Right.
They're not touching.
Right.
Now, unfortunately, before I got into recovery and stuff, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I cheated and
Right.
people cheated on me. But it's almost that whole thing is you kind of attract what you put out there.
Yeah.
And it's
I
the
have
same
this
thing
thing
as
is, you usually get what you are,
right.
you know.
And it happens to you. You do it to others, others do
Right.
it to you. And then here's a magical. You
Mm.
stop doing it, other people stop doing it, or you stop or you attract people that have a different frame of
Right.
mind.
Right.
And it's the same thing with therapy. You start almost attracting people that are more emotionally healthy.
Mm-hmm.
You tend to attract more people.
Right.
The same thing like in this room, Hello Houston. We
Mhm.
start getting like-minded small business owners. Everyone's kept talking, well, I have friends, I have this. I go, doesn't matter. There's started with about 20 of us, 30 of us. Now we're about 60 of us.
Right.
There's plenty of small-minded business people that are trying to get better in all facets of their life, like we're talking about. And I think you're doing an excellent job by bringing in all these different topics.
Right.
If we can bring up all these different aspects into our life,
Right.
guess what? You're winning.
All day.
All day,
All day.
all day,
All
every
day.
day.
Right.
And, and it's winning. And to me, it's you're winning in relationships
Mm-hmm.
and you're winning with your bank account and you're just winning in life
Right.
because you're more content with your life because you're happy with who you are. You're content. You're at peace.
Right.
That was my biggest thing. When I went into recovery, my biggest thing is I was fighting with everybody. Do you know who I was fighting with the most?
You.
Myself.
Mhm.
Exactly. I kept saying, well, why is this happening to me? Why is this? Well, because I'm not doing what I needed to do.
Well,
I wasn't willing to do the
Well,
work.
people have to understand the start and end is with us.
Right.
We are usually more than likely. People trying to restart. Hold on. Okay, back. It was trying to restart. I don't know what happened. We're the start all and we're the end all.
Right.
Everything starts with us. You know what I'm saying? We have to go ahead and really just face it. Look in the mirror. And if we do that and we hold ourselves accountable, things can start to change.
I hear you.
Things can start to change. So let me ask you this right here. Because you said it numerous times, you went to therapy. What was the thing that made you go? Why did you go that day you went?
Well, like a lot of things, at first I didn't believe in it.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, I had the luxury of dating someone who knew a lot about therapy and emotional issues.
Right.
And, she had made the first comment that, brought her home to a Thanksgiving and she says, oh, I think your family thinks too much, your drinks too much.
Mm.
And of course, immediately afterwards, I got very
Hot.
defensive.
Right.
Oh, you're full of it. You don't know what you're talking about. And,
right.
And I think in my head, God, she's such a dumb bitch. That's what I thought. But here's the thing is, though, later on I went home to start thinking about, maybe she's got a point. Maybe she, there's a thing, it was almost like planting that seed into your mouth,
right.
into your brain.
Mm.
And then later on is when I went, after we had a big fight, and you see that in my introductory video, I talk about how I had this, this blowout,
right.
The Rockets lost a playoff game, I'm drunk, lost
money.
And
combination, everything,
huh? I want some loving.
Ooh.
And then, I'm calling, this is how long ago it was. This is 1997. I'm calling from a payphone by the bathrooms. That's when, that's how you communicate.
Right.
You didn't have a cell phone. You didn't just go out to the side and make a phone or text someone, hey, I'm coming over. No, you got to get on a payphone. And of course, everyone had it by that time. You're at a bar. Everyone's going to use the bathroom at some point.
Right.
I'm sitting there yelling, screaming, I want to come over. What do you mean? No, this and that, it's like, but she kept saying no. And then eventually, I went home. So, and then like 2 days later, I went to my first AA meeting.
Okay. But I mean,
but I knew I did.
Did you make the decision just from being home that night?
That whole weekend. So that happened like on a Friday night.
Right.
And so I didn't go to a meeting till that Monday
okay.
night. Yeah. So I had all weekend.
What pushed you to, what pushed you to that moment?
Well, I think everything.
She wasn't answering your phone calls at that point?
Well, no, she answered my phone calls. She just didn't let me to come over to be with her, to have sex.
Okay. No, I'm talking about after the night you went back home.
Oh yeah, I went back to my place.
Right.
And then we still talked, but I still wasn't, coming over. So it was kind of like it was almost like, I spent the weekend, kind of thinking things over.
Right.
The drinking, the hangover, the money,
right.
this, the no sex, all that stuff. And then just do a reevaluation, going, okay, where's my life going? It's not going where I want to go.
Right.
It's going in the opposite direction. So that's why I said, I said, well, let me just explore. I said, I didn't make a decision to say I'm not going to drink. I just said, I'm just going to go to a meeting.
Right.
What's 1 hour
Okay.
if I can actually learn something? Because what I was doing wasn't working. So
Mhm.
I'm have to listen to something.
Right.
So, go to a meeting. I kind of, I liked what I heard. And, then
Mhm.
just slowly, starting. Now I'm still gambling.
Right.
I'm still not understanding anything about emotions.
Right.
So then like a year and a half later, I realized, okay, I need to do something because I feel miserable. So then I went into therapy thinking, okay, I'd go into therapy.
Okay.
Now I'm going to prove to the point that I'm crazy.
Go ahead.
So ask me, or were you crazy?
Were you crazy?
Would you pay a therapist every week for a year and a half just to lie to them?
Yeah, you crazy. Or you was extremely rich. How about that? You wasn't crazy.
No,
you was just extremely wealthy.
No, I wasn't.
How about
Trust
that?
me, because when you're a
Extremely
compulsive
wealthy.
gambler, you're not that.
Right.
You're not rich in any area of your life,
Right.
emotionally, spiritually, mentally, financially. So I started to learn, and then finally another year and a half later is when I went into Gamblers Anonymous.
Okay.
To understand, because I realized, but the thing that went to is I went on I had a trip planned to go into Portugal.
Okay.
So I was in Portugal, and then I went to a place where the Virgin Mary had an apparition. And so I went there and I prayed and I cried and asked for help. And I came back home and I said, okay, now I'm finally willing
ready.
to work 2 12-step programs, therapy, and do everything that's what's asked for me instead of doing things. There's a thing that calls half measures, avail us nothing. That's so true. Half measures avail us nothing.
So it really was a significant emotional event.
Right. It took like a 3-year process. Right. I mean, to fully accept
it. Okay.
My situation, what I needed to do for me.
Right.
Is that and then I was willing to kind of work, and then I really was able to make progress.
Right.
And that's what kind of took place.
No, that's good. That's good. That's good.
No.
The door's hanging on over there.
Still here.
She's hanging on. She's barely hanging on, but she's hanging on.
I think she needs some food.
You need a break?
She needs some food.
So we're gonna close it out. We're gonna come back to Hugo. We're gonna close it out with you, right? What are you getting out of working with Hugo V?
There are several things I think that I'm getting out of just working with Hugo and continue building Life is Wonderful. One, just learning how to run a business, start it. If you have an idea, go with it. Fail, succeed, just keep on going. I've learned how to do digital marketing, which will help me in my educational career wise and being able to market stuff that I have ideas personally for myself. I think I'm learning more about myself as well from different aspects that I didn't think I could even fathom just from the experience that Hugo's given me and the knowledge that I'm receiving from Life is Wonderful itself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can just go on and on, a never-ending list.
Right.
But I think the most important thing that I've learned is just it's okay to be vulnerable. And if you keep being vulnerable, that you'll continue to learn more about yourself. And like Hugo was saying, what you can tolerate, how much respect that, from other people, disrespect, being respectful, not only for them, but for yourself as well. And I mean, just keep on growing.
Okay, that's good. That's good. I mean, I think you're doing a great thing. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You're willing, you're open to learn and stuff like that. You're with a great individual. So, you know what I'm saying? I can only see you just continue to ascend and just great heights. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you.
And once you get to the point of, when you do branch off and get your own business running and stuff like that, I mean, you are going to have the tools and everything. And it's good that you have it, especially at a young age, because one, it's a blessing. And please know it's a blessing because everybody don't even get the opportunities that you have, you know what I'm saying, to work with a great individual such as Hugo. And
but she's also like, I want to also appreciate, I mean, she's put a lot of effort. I do I do pay her.
Right.
But it's not as, but I mean, because it's kind of in the beginning stages. And said, I know things will, increase, and that would also increase her. I mean, but like the main thing is, she's made the message much more digestible, much more accessible, much more relatable because of what she's added.
Right.
I can also kind of be proud of her is because I've watched since that she's done all the work, but you know,
Right.
she finished her degree.
Mm-hmm.
She applied to get into a master's program, got
Right.
accepted, is now working diligently
Mm-hmm.
towards now getting a master's.
Right.
I've watched her also get into a relationship. I've
Mhm.
watched her now be a dog owner.
Okay.
I've watched her the way she, you know, dealing with something very emotional, you know,
Mhm.
watching her dad go through a kidney transplant.
Right.
There were some really tough days, you know,
Mhm.
that really were emotional, but
Right.
she kind of, you know, she knew when to be by herself, to be with family, to reach out to me, to reach out to others. You know, you
Mhm.
see how, you know, she's grown so many things that have kind of challenged her,
Right.
and she, you know, she kind of sees it. So, you know, and that's, I think, you know, it goes back to the thing is, you know, sometimes you kind of get lucky. Like I was
Mhm.
telling you, you know, it's kind of lucky the way
Right.
we kind of got together.
True.
And just quickly, you know, so I told you the story, so I'll just tell the audience the
Your
reason we
Brenda.
got through with someone that I knew for 19 years.
Right.
You know, this woman named Brenda,
Uh-huh.
you know, been friend for like 19 years, you know, through now she'd also been through AA and GA, but I met her in the GA program. Now
Okay.
she was very close friends, or is still a close friend of Ladora's mother,
Okay.
who's also in AA.
All right.
So, but you know, she kept. So Brenda calls me and says, "My friend has a daughter that needs
An
a
intern.
job. She needs to be an intern."
Okay.
And I kept telling her, "Oh, you know, I work by myself. I don't, you know,
Don't
I'm
need
so
one.
I don't need one." So,
Right. Right.
but you know, like addicts,
Mhm.
sometimes no does not mean no.
Mhm.
So I'm going to ask again
Right.
and again, and I'm going to be told no, no, no until he finally says, "Okay, fine.
Right.
Give me Yvonne's number." That's her mother's name. So I call her mother and I ask her mother, "Okay, this is your dog?" She goes, "I don't know. You're talking." Then I call Ladora and she's like, "Oh." I go, the one thing I needed is can you build? She
Right.
goes, "No." Well, that's what I could have hired you for. She goes, "Well, I don't have that skill." I go, "Well, you're not much." And then I'm, you know, saying, "Okay, well, I know some people," and she's talking about, you know, minor in business. I go, "Well," she goes, "Well, you know what? Why don't I just come by your office? Let me just see." You know, I said, "Okay, fine. Well, maybe I know somebody." You
Right.
know, and, you know, like we all do. Like, you know, Brian, you have a you know, network. You know, you're always willing to help people. You know,
Right.
even though you may specifically not be able to help them, but maybe you know somebody.
Right.
So she's kind of talking, and I'm going, "This is going nowhere. I don't need you. I understand." You know, and then she kind of tells me she only got 2 more weeks before she goes back up to San Marcos.
Oh.
Say like, "Well, obviously this is a short intern, so it's not like a major financial obligation for me."
Right.
So then I figure out, well, I need her to just cold call some plants, you know, something
Mhm.
she's never, you know, done. You know,
Right.
she's had her other retail jobs, you know,
Yeah.
selling, you know, worked at Men's Warehouse selling suits, you know, selling
Right.
clothes. But I have her, you know, so I said, "Well, if you're willing, you know, I'll pay you. Call this list, you know, introducing a new product, just see what they need. You know,
Right.
ask them, you know, do they have an issue with aeration?" That was the whole thing. So she does it for 2 weeks. And then, like, one thing, Halsey, you know, I have another buddy who says, "Oh, I need you to speak at a speaker showcase." And then I said,
Mhm.
"Well, I'm going to start a YouTube channel." So
Right.
then I asked her, "Hey, you got to help me.
Mhm. Oh,
Film
that was your
me."
thing, huh?
Well, no, I said, "Just film me first."
Yeah.
And then she had to learn. She didn't know much about YouTube. And then she learned how to just add graphics, upload,
Right.
start, pretty much
Mhm.
control my YouTube channel.
Right.
And like I was telling you, you just never know how God works in our lives.
Trust me, I know.
And you never know. You know that story? They've said this story usually after hurricanes. You know, there's the story is there's a person that's, you know, that the hurricane, the waters are rising. You know, they're stuck and they're on top of the roof waiting to be saved,
Right.
and they're praying to God. I go, "God, please save me, please save me, please save me." And then all of a sudden, you know, there's a guy in a canoe that paddles back, and he
Right.
asks him, he goes, "Hey, do you want to get into the canoe? You know, we can go to shore." They said, "No, no, 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 no. I'm waiting on something bigger." Then a couple comes by in a motorboat, and they said, "Hey, do you want to get into the motorboat and I'll take you to shore?" They said, "No, no, no. I'm waiting on something bigger." Sure enough, it keeps raining. You know, the person drowns, then goes up. You know, it's at the pearly gates with
Right.
God, and God asks, the person goes, "God, I've been praying for you. I asked you for help. Why didn't you help me? And God says, I sent people to save you 2 times and you said no. You rejected me.
Right.
And that's usually a lot of times we don't
True.
even know a lot of the signs that are there. We don't even know how people, because
Right.
sometimes we have some type of fixation
And what we
in our
want.
head of what we think is
Mhm.
who is a person, number one, to
Right.
love. We have a thing, oh, they have to be this
This,
tall, or
and
this, or
Mhm.
they have to have this, they got to look this way, or they got to
Right.
have this, they have to have this profession.
Right.
It's the same thing with business.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that I have something that that is successful, that's moving in the right direction, is because even though I kept saying no, like the person on the roof,
Right.
and thank God Brenda was hard headed.
Right.
Thank God Yvonne just said talk to Ladora.
Right.
Thank God Ladora didn't say
okay.
just walk out the door. Like
Right.
most people who, at this time she was 20 years old. She wasn't
Right.
even 21.
Right.
Especially, I'm a taller white, said, they would have just said no. They would have accepted it.
Right.
But, give Ladora credit. She said, she just kept pushing a little. And sometimes I tell people, you just got to push.
Just got to do a little pushing. That's it.
Push.
It.
It's not a big deal. Yeah. So what you hear no. And it wasn't like, no, get out of here. I was just like, no, hey, I'm trying to, and then eventually,
develop into something more.
It was something more, but it wasn't me.
Mm-hmm.
I was blind.
Right.
But somehow I had that little voice that said, okay, okay, fine. It's only 2 weeks. It's only a little bit of money. Maybe I actually get some business out of it. I can flip it.
Right.
Just like anything, we take different types of risks.
Right. Definitely.
And then sure enough, one thing leads to another. And here we are. Almost, year and a half, 18 months, we're still going, still producing, and, still trying to do bigger and bigger things.
Right.
And obviously keep growing it and see how it goes.
That's one thing I'm really excited about. Life is Wonderful. I mean, from day one, just, hey, do a couple of videos, record. I'm like, okay. I'm like, man, it's been a long time since I've video edited anything. And I'm just like, wow, well, just discovering new programs that's out there, not only for me, but for him, and coming up with different business ideas. And it's all part of growing a business.
Right.
And I feel like I'm getting that aspect of like when it's a baby, like the new development, and just watching it mature and watching the subscribers go up. And
isn't it great?
You
see, I noticed you talk, your eyes widen because that's that feeling, and it's good. And it's good you see that, you know what I'm saying? Because that is really the entrepreneur thing. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the pride too, that, this is something, it's not, she's put a lot of hours. What I was saying is, she knows, when you put your time and effort into something, you tend to appreciate it more, or you kind of see, especially if you're putting it out there for the whole world.
Right.
She knows
it's part of the
world.
brand.
Even though, they're seeing my face and they may not see her specifically, she knows. Because I tell her, and I'm OCD, so she gets very. I get very like, no, I want it this way.
Right.
And she's like, I can hear the frustration,
school,
and she's going, I got this, I can't get to it. I can hear her sometimes get frustrated. I go, well, I don't, just how it is, Brian. Yeah. But you know how it is, Brian. When you're an entrepreneur, you want to put out quality. It's not about putting out anything. I could put out, and sometimes it's like. But even I'll give you an example. I sent her a video. So I started this 90-second thing on honesty.
Right.
And I did all 3. I did 3, and she was real busy. So I was trying to do the first 3: honesty, then hope, and faith. And then she calls me back. It takes a couple weeks, and she finally gets back to me, and she goes, the hope video is nice and clear. The faith video is nice and clear. The honesty is blurry.
Right.
And I'm like, you could have told me this like 3 weeks ago. And now, we can't send out hope. We can't push it because in this way it has to be done in a sequence.
Okay.
Honesty has to be published first because that we got to build on honesty.
Right.
But we can't. So she finishes the other 2. We can't upload them.
Right.
Because I have to now reshoot. Now I'm in the middle of some other stuff, so I can't shoot honesty now. I'm doing a bunch of other things, so I got to wait like another week to 10 days to shoot.
Right.
Then I shoot it. Then I have to give it back. Later. Upload it to shoot it over to her. But that's right. But see, now it's almost like teaching her because now she goes is like, we're not putting up a blurry honesty video.
Yeah.
And then later on, I understand what she was saying. Now I was irritated
Right.
because I didn't want to do it over again after waiting this time. But but that's okay. And I could tell her, I go, look, yeah, I'm irritated. But I wasn't
Right.
irritated at her. I'm just irritated at the whole
situation.
slowness,
Situation.
the
Yeah.
slowness
Situation,
of doing it.
right.
Because you want certain things to. And I hate when
Right.
people say you gotta upload things consistently, frequently.
Right.
And I said, no, I want to do things
Quality.
my
Right.
way. I got other things going on. This
Right.
isn't my only
Only
thing. And I
thing.
understand,
Right.
why
Right.
people want to consistently see things, but I also know that people come back to my IG or to my website
Uh-huh.
because it's done with quality.
Right.
And there's a lot of effort. And then, and I like the fact that, and eventually, how it is when you with different people that you work with,
Right.
you develop a certain amount of flow.
No,
So now we
you do.
kind of know, and now we
each
kind of
other.
know how
It's
each other
the
battle
is.
rhythm.
Right.
Yeah.
Battle rhythm. That's
And
And
what
then
it's
you
kinda
don't
called.
take it personally. Like
Right.
if I
Right.
get on her nerves, I'm texting her. Well, when are you going to do it? When are you going to do it?
What you
Until
be
it-
doing?
Yeah.
You going back and
Yeah.
when you say something, you be like, oh, you know my name.
No, I mean,
She
I know at
ignores
this
it
point.
sometimes.
Yeah,
Oh,
She'll
just
I'm like,
ignore it.
yeah,
okay.
What you be like?
She'll ghost me. She'll ghost me for like
Oh.
3
Come on,
days.
Ladora. You won't ghost him, will you? Huh, Ladora?
I'm that busy, I guess so.
Oh, okay.
I mean, yeah, I definitely remember from just going back on how because the videos sometimes they were like 10 to 12 minutes, and
Oh,
just
okay.
trying to figure out how to transfer one video to one cloud and what's the best source to do
Right.
that. And okay, after it's done, do you want the finished product? I'm having all these USB drives, and
Right.
it's a mess definitely behind the scenes.
It
But when
is.
it's out there, and I think
Yeah,
it's
it
definitely
is.
beneficial for everybody that comes across it, listens to it, knows about it,
Hmm.
and it's definitely bigger than all of us. So.
Definitely. And when did y'all start that? On the
Yeah,
Since
YouTube and stuff?
2019?
It was
This
on
summer?
September. It's
September,
like
yeah.
because I said I had a speaker showcase to go in November, and I
Yeah.
started that and I had just come out of a retreat, and so I
Right.
had already this idea percolated in my mind.
Mm.
So just so people know, what I'm filming tomorrow is a 90-second thing on courage, and I talk
Okay.
about some of this emotional courage, and then once
Right.
I finish it, I give it to Ladora, and then hopefully it gets published here
Within-
shortly.
Within 3 weeks.
Yeah,
Right.
within 3 weeks. And then so just so people, so the next things that are coming out, and then the one after that's integrity.
Right.
So we're just going to keep working through all the different 12 spiritual principles. And then I go
Right.
back to like I said, finishing this online course and then doing a separate video, which will be just done on like alcohol and then one on
Okay.
family.
Right.
So I'm just going to tackle all different subjects.
That's great, man. And you're right though. As far as doing this YouTube stuff, it's like one is real new to me. I mean, I'm like 3.5 weeks into this thing, and but it really just came out of just wanting to I mentor people, and so they were just kind of like, yo, you need to charge people. I said, nah. I said, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a podcast. But see, this is the difference with me. I'm a very private person. Like I'm totally private, believe it or not. And for me to do a podcast is something totally against like what I am,
Mhm.
And but sometimes you have to, if you really want to help people, you go, beyond what you normally do. And so this is something beyond what I normally do. But at the same time, I didn't know it was gonna grow. It's like growing fast,
Right.
and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
So to the point where, because I was just doing all this and that and this and light and stuff, and I was just like, so somebody reached out to me, and today, in fact, it was like, hey man, we've been kind of looking at your stuff, and I think you're going in a direction that you're thinking about getting somebody. I'm like, yeah, man, you know what I'm saying. So I'm gonna have the person on the show because I want her. What I want to do is I want to bring her in about her company, but I want her to get inside my mind so she can see what I'm doing, so she can get my vision.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then she'll be able to kind of direct the direction it needs to go as far as how it goes out. You know what I'm saying? But I'm always be in sweats, and this
That's fine.
is my thing as far as
You got to have your own
how,
brand.
yeah. It's just the way I move, and this is not my only thing. This
No,
definitely
no.
ain't my only thing. You know what I'm saying? I have
No, I
5
know.
businesses. This is just something I wanted to do right here.
No,
You know what I'm saying?
exactly.
And I think it's,
and that's what I
you know,
said is it's a lot of times is we don't
Right.
realize all the things we want to do.
Right.
We don't have enough time in the day to do
Don't.
it. That's why we also need to associate, alliance, pay people,
There you
work
go.
with people, because we can get
Yeah,
more stuff out there. Like you're saying,
it creates
how
jobs.
to get more. Well, it creates jobs, but also creates, especially if it's good information, you get
Right.
it all out there, whether it's like a video, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a business, you're selling, you're
Mhm.
doing something,
Right.
some type of product,
Right.
you're doing these things.
I definitely get, like my daughter, she's hygienist. It's not hygienist, but a practitioner, but she's an influencer also.
Right.
And so people are like, man, your daughter could. I said, I'm sure she could, tell me how to do this and tell me how to do this, or even put my stuff out on her platform. But I'm like, no, that one is her thing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I don't want to get involved with that at all. I don't need her to push it out that way. I'm just gonna, do what I'm doing, and I'll get somebody professional to do it.
Right.
And that's just the direction I'm going now. So over the next couple of episodes, you'll see things will change like totally, because just the way it's pushed and the way it's presented, and the cameras I'm about to get. You know what I'm saying? So
Oh, I
it'll
hear
be
you.
really a camera over here, and it's gonna point at these people, and
Uh-oh.
it's gonna, you know what I'm saying? So it's gonna be more like that, and it'll be real clear. And because one, the people that got lined up to come in, they're like some really like yourself. They're the heavy hitters, and they're really willing to give the information. You know what I'm saying? That's gonna help business owners and just help them.
Well, I think it's also a way to sell all the products.
Well, it's really gonna help them, honestly.
Well, no, I do, because
it's definitely gonna help them.
Because I think the more you kind of value, the more you give to the community,
Right.
the more you get back from the community.
Right.
A lot of people want to say, well, I'm not going to do anything until I get paid.
Yeah.
I mean, no one wants to continuously work for free, because you can't.
Right.
We all have certain bills or
Right.
obligations we have to deal with.
Right.
Even if this is a second business, third business,
Right.
it's still a business.
Right.
You got to treat it as a business, and all businesses require money.
Oh, definitely. It's kind of like
But
the
there's
meals
still a
tonight
way,
were
like-
provided by S&A Transportation. You know what I'm saying? They provide the meals tonight. Or even like you see scrolling on the bottom,
Right.
I haven't had a funnel cake yet, but I'm gonna go get some. But I was supposed to go by to pick up some funnel cakes, right? They have great funnel cakes. They open Thursday through Sunday. But I told them today, I said, hey, you know what? Even yesterday, I said I'm gonna scroll across the bottom of the screen. I haven't been there to pick them up yet, but I'm probably gonna go tomorrow.
Yeah, I saw
'cause
that they have
time.
Oh, I'm gonna go. I
Yeah.
had already texted
Right.
them. They
So,
have a cheesecake. They have a cheesecake funnel.
Yeah,
cake.
and that's what I want to get. I
I
love
the mini
cheesecake
with
I
the
love
strawberries,
cheese.
and you know what else they
Come
got?
on now.
They got whipped cream. You know how I like my whipped
come
cream.
on now.
And
You got to go hard in the
And
paint.
then on top of that, they have the other thing. I when I go to the rodeo, I only
Right.
get two things:
What's that?
corn dogs, and funnel cakes. And
Yeah,
they have,
yeah.
and then right now what they have, they also have mini corn dogs.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh,
They're doing some
shoot.
savory, and they
What-
got these what they call their Texas egg rolls with brisket
Mhm.
and white mac and cheese.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? I'm a North Carolina boy, but I'm gonna try it anyway, though. So if anybody's looking for this right here and there in Texas, please head down to the Funnel Cake Place. It's on 6780 Martin Luther King Boulevard in Houston, Texas. They're open from Thursday to Sunday from noon to 7 p.m. All right, and please support them. We want to support everybody, and that's what this is all about. One of the things it's all about, but it's also about business owners coming in talking about their path to business. And some things that probably can help people as they build their business. Some people have talents, and they need to hone some skills. We're gonna bring people in so they can kind of get that connection. One of the things I didn't have a photographer today, but so one of the things I'm doing back there, that's what I'm building. So the next time you probably come in, it's probably done this weekend. So that whole bay is gonna be black, right? And so that photography stuff just got to put it up. So just put that stuff in. And what I'm doing with a lot of photographers, they don't have spaces. You know what I'm saying? Because, to shoot certain things. So what I'm doing is providing a space for up and coming photographers, you know what I'm saying, who don't have the money to pay for big spaces and stuff like that. And just the only payback to me is this right here, that the days I have guests, when the guests come in, it'll be a quick little photo shoot. You know what I'm saying? We pick them up in the van, they come in, they get a photo shoot, you know what I'm saying, maybe 10 minutes. They come in, eat, do the show, and by the time they finish with the show, they'll have they have an email with all their photos in it that are already professionally done and everything. So maybe headshots or just pictures, you know what I'm saying, that they wanted to do. So it's just something, but it gives the photographers now also a contact with business owners. You know what I'm saying, who will need pictures for certain things, right?
Obviously.
And so now it creates that connection. You know what I'm saying? And so you rotate photographers through like that. I'm telling you, it just makes the community better. So I know we're sitting at 2:48 and 40 seconds. Hugo V, I thank you so much for stopping by. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure we're going to meet in the morning. You're going to be up in the morning For Hello Houston. Oh no,
Saturday.
tomorrow's Saturday. See,
I'm gonna
when
be
you
up.
when you
I
own
will be up in the morning.
when you own a business, you don't know what day it is.
So I can
So that's one thing you got to look forward to too. You know what I'm saying? Once you own your own business, you know you'll never know what day it is ever because every day is a business day. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
But I can tell you, tomorrow morning is a perfect day to wake up in prayer and then go to the gym.
you're gonna put it in, huh?
Yeah, you got to, especially with Sunday coming around with money being 19 degrees. You know, I'm not going to really wanting to go to the gym.
Come on,
when it's 19.
come on, you gotta go to gym anytime.
No, I know,
every day
but
of the
I'm
week.
saying, I
Freezing,
don't know.
snow, it don't matter. You gotta
No,
get out
I always
there, right?
no, I love my workouts, but like
Right.
I said, it's like I don't mind going to. I can go 4 or 5 days. You know, I always have at least two rest days because I think my body needs. Well, I'm always doing something else. You know,
Right.
like you're saying, you're in your business. Sometimes
Right.
you're just working. You're just
True.
doing. I'm doing a video. I'm doing some writing. I'm doing
Right.
something. So, but no, I mean, as I said, it's always a beautiful day to wake up
It
and
is.
have something to do, whether
Yeah.
it's workout, whatever you're doing.
Right.
Spend time with your family, especially with Valentine's being on Sunday.
Right. Well, it's definitely beautiful to wake up. That's
Yeah.
my thing. Waking up
do.
is beautiful.
It is.
All right, everybody. Hey, thank you for joining in. You know what I'm saying? And I have I will put the next guest out, which will be Sunday. I'll put that out tomorrow. And you have a great weekend. You have a lovely Valentine's Day. And we'll see you next time.
It's the king of love track, baby. Take, wheel. Take, wheel. Everybody take, wheel. Come on, take, wheel. Do the take, wheel. Everybody take, wheel. You got to speak to me, bitch, I don't give a fuck. Give you a jab to the nose and make you say what's up. I'm in the club, nigga, tuck with the long barrel. When the music stop having singing, not Christmas carols. People hate me, man, I really do know why. They see the wings on my back and they know I'm gon' fly. So what the fuck's supposed to do? Just try to please people. Got my NDK crew family and I don't think people. Remember, used to put newspaper in my tennis shoes. Used to walk around in them tennis, the mini shoes. For party nigga, I was too thugged out for that. Never told all my enemies I couldn't be a rat. But niggas told on me, nigga, they got it in return. Now ain't they mama's living room in a nice urn. Fucking your whole crew, bitch, cause you gon' get caught. Blow your brains out in your lap, now hold that thought. Motherfuckers, the beginning of a new era. Jay will get in and poppin', nigga, cause I'm so clever. You can love me, you hate me, nigga, but I'm still with it. G5 legacy never in the bitches, the beginning. This is the beginning of a new era. Jay will get in and poppin', nigga, cause I'm so clever. You can love me, you hate me, nigga, but I'm still with it. G5 legacy never in the bitches, the beginning. This just for my killers who just straight up murder. Leave you in the sewer dead just like a ninja turtle. I got connections with the real fucking black mob. And I'm trying to get it right for my man God. So any drama, don't believe me that there's no problem. Niggas will torture your ass, you wish they fucking rob you. Menace to society, that's my favorite one. Desert Eagle 50 caliber, that's my favorite gun. My nature gunning, yes I'm gunning for the fucking dome. You the homie kid cause you always running fucking home. MBK got a boy, your house will clap it up. I run my mouth like a big booty bitch, I can back it up. Try niggas on pickups just like they did in Jasper. Keep fucking around, your new friend is gonna be Casper. You gonna be in the casket, people trying to comfort on you. But so many hoes ain't taking can play golf for you. Motherfuckers, stop pretending of a new era. Jay will get in and poppin', nigga, cause I'm so clever. You can love me, you hate me, nigga, but I'm still with it. G5 legacy never in the bitches, the beginning. This is the beginning of a new era. Jay will get in and poppin', nigga, cause I'm so clever. You can love me, you hate me, nigga, but I'm still with it. G5 legacy never in the bitches, the beginning. Fuck that shit, boy, I'm tired of being nice. White shit in your head, this mic is not a fucking lights. I keep the termites fed like a pistol, stay with some lead. Like Marita, dog, stay with some bread. I lived in the trailer, not no projects. They still got it, but you wouldn't run on my set. I kill niggas, dog, and also I kill time. Tell out my snitches, head to fucking moms. Niggas tell on me, goddamn, they drop the fucking down. Your brains are gone, now you out of your fucking mind. And niggas know I fight you, bitch. Yeah, I'm ready to strap, but they don't fucking understand to get the bitch. Get that head, that gun clap. It's the beginning of a new era. Jay will get in and poppin', nigga, cause I'm so clever. You can love me, you hate me, nigga, but I'm still with it. G5 legacy never in the bitches, the beginning. This is the beginning of a new era. Jay will get in and poppin', nigga, cause I'm so clever. You can love me, you hate me, nigga,